3 in the morning. The apartment in Arlington, Virginia sits dark except for a single desk lamp casting amber light across scattered photographs. 43 of them. 43 faces arranged in precise rows on the wall like a gallery of ghosts. Each one has a name written beneath in careful handwriting. Each one has an age. Each one has a family status notation. Wife and 2 daughters. 3 brothers. Elderly mother. Unmarried. The details matter because the details are all that remain. Sarah MacKenzie sits at the desk with a leather-bound journal open before her. Her hand moves across the page in steady strokes, the kind of handwriting that comes from years of recording data, measurements, wind speeds, distances, numbers that add up to death. Target number 43, Helmand Province, Afghanistan, 2009. Mohammed Hassan, age 24. Confirmed Taliban fighter, distance 680 meters. Weather conditions clear, wind southeast at 8 miles per hour. Single shot, center mass. Through the scope, I watched him fall, the way his body twisted, the way the dust rose around him, the way he stopped being a person and became a problem solved. Later, the intelligence report came through. Mohammed Hassan, married, 2 daughters, ages 3 and 5. The girls are orphans now because a woman they will never know looked through a scope and made a decision that took 0.3 seconds to execute and will last forever. This is what it costs. This never goes away. Sarah sets down the pen. Her hands are steady. After 12 years in the Army, after 4 deployments, after 43 confirmed kills, her hands no longer shake. That should probably worry her more than it does. The phone rings. At 3 in the morning, a ringing phone means only one thing. Captain Frank Morrison's voice comes through rough, with age and cigarettes, and 40 years of carrying things that don't have names. Sarah, you're being attached to a SEAL operation. Helmand Province. High-value target extraction. Intel says the valley is clean. Minimal hostile activity. Sarah looks at the wall of faces. Intel says, how many times has she heard those words? How many times has Intel been catastrophically wrong? You don't believe the intelligence, she says. It's not a question. Morrison exhales, a sound like wind through dead trees. After 35 years doing this, I don't believe anything except what soldiers on the ground tell me. I know that men in air-conditioned rooms looking at satellite photos don't know a goddamn thing about what's waiting in those mountains. There's a pause, the kind that carries weight. You ship out in 72 hours. Get your gear ready. And Sarah, his voice drops lower. This isn't a request. This is me sending you somewhere I know is wrong because you're the only one who can make it right. The line goes dead. Sarah sits in the amber light, surrounded by 43 ghosts, and knows with absolute certainty that when she comes back, if she comes back, there will be more faces on this wall. The memory comes unbidden, the way they always do at 3 in the morning when the defenses are down. Tikrit, Iraq, April 1997. Sarah was 15 years old, a high school sophomore living on base, young enough to still believe that doing the right thing mattered, that following orders meant something, that her father was invincible. The notification came through official channels. Colonel William McKenzie killed in action during building clearance operation. Extraordinary heroism in the face of enemy fire. 8 Marines saved, 1 officer down. Major Frank Morrison, 47 then, and already carrying that 1,000-yard stare, came to their house personally. He didn't send a chaplain. He didn't send a casualty affairs officer. He came himself because he knew what he had to tell her would break something that couldn't be fixed. They sat in a living room that smelled like her mother's coffee and leather, and the particular emptiness that fills a house when someone is never coming home. Your father saved 8 Marines, Morrison said. The intelligence said the building was clear. Your father's gut said otherwise. So he went in alone, cleared 12 hostiles room by room, got those Marines out alive. Sarah remembers nodding, remembers feeling something like pride trying to push through the grief. Then Morrison said the part that changed everything. The last IED was remotely triggered. Your father saw the wire. He could have stopped, could have called for EOD, could have waited. But stopping meant the Marines behind him would be in the kill zone when it detonated. So he didn't stop. He stepped forward, deliberately. He chose 8 men he barely knew over his own daughter. The pride died. Something colder took its place. Morrison leaned forward, his eyes carrying a weight she didn't understand then, but understands now with perfect clarity. I'm telling you this because the system will call him a hero. They'll give him medals. They'll put his name on buildings. But heroes don't get funerals where 15-year-old daughters cry alone. You're young now, but one day you'll follow this path, and I need you to understand what this job really is. It doesn't make you a hero, Sarah. It makes you a ghost. 13 years later, sitting in an apartment full of ghosts, Sarah understands perfectly. Kandahar Airfield, Afghanistan, October 2010. The heat comes off the tarmac in visible waves, distorting the C-130s and Blackhawks and all the machinery of American presence in a country that has been chewing up empires for thousands of years. Hangar 7 sits at the eastern edge of the airfield, one of dozens of identical metal structures that could be anywhere, that are deliberately designed to be forgettable. Sarah MacKenzie walks across the concrete with her rifle case in one hand and a deployment bag in the other. The XM-2010 enhanced sniper rifle breaks down into component parts that she could reassemble blindfolded, has reassembled blindfolded during training exercises designed to simulate every kind of chaos. The rifle is more familiar to her than most people, more reliable too. Inside the hangar, the temperature drops 15 degrees into the artificial chill of military air conditioning. The space smells like hydraulic fluid and gun oil, and the particular staleness that comes from too many men spending too much time in enclosed spaces. SEAL Team 6 occupies the western corner. 12 men in various states of preparing gear, checking weapons, the practice movements of operators who have done this so many times it's become ritual. They move like a single organism, passing ammunition, adjusting plate carriers, the kind of coordination that comes from years of bleeding together. Sarah sets her case down and begins her own ritual. Receiver group separation, bolt carrier assembly, extraction, barrel removal. Each piece comes apart with mechanical precision, laid out on the weathered Pelican case in exact order. She's done this 10,000 times. The repetition is meditative. The repetition is the only thing that keeps the 43 faces quiet. The SEAL team leader notices her. Of course he does. A woman in their space, an army attachment, an outsider. He crosses the hangar with the walk of someone who has spent 22 years being told he's the tip of the spear and has the confirmed kills to prove it. Lieutenant Commander Thomas Brennan is 42 years old and looks 50. The years show in the lines around his eyes, the gray threading through his beard, the way he moves like every joint hurts, but he's too stubborn to acknowledge pain. His service record reads like a greatest hits of American military operations over the past 2 decades. Somalia, Iraq, Afghanistan. Again and again and again until the missions blur together into one long deployment interrupted by brief moments of pretending to be human. You're the Army attachment, he says. His voice is flat, professionally neutral, carrying no hostility but no warmth either. MacKenzie, right? Yes, sir. He studies her for a long moment. I read your file. 43 confirmed kills over 4 deployments. Impressive numbers. Also read the psych evaluations. PTSD diagnosis. Survivor's guilt. Chronic insomnia. Medication for anxiety. You're a walking red flag, Chief. Sarah meets his eyes without flinching. So are you, Commander. I read your file too. 14 teammates killed in action over 22 years. Divorce finalized last year. Daughter stopped returning your calls 6 months ago. High-functioning depression, self-medicating with alcohol. We're both ghosts. Something flickers across Thomas's face. Not quite a smile, not quite respect, just recognition. One damaged thing seeing itself reflected in another. Then you understand why I don't trust anyone anymore, he says quietly, including myself, including intelligence, and especially including gut feelings that got my friends killed. He pulls out a tablet, brings up satellite imagery. The mission brief, high-value target in a compound in the Helmand Valley. Intelligence shows minimal hostile presence, clean extraction route, textbook operation, in and out before anyone knows we're there. Sarah has heard this before. She's heard it 43 times, and 43 times she's looked through a scope at someone who wasn't supposed to be there, who intelligence said wouldn't be there, and she's made the decision that turns a living person into a photograph on her wall. The thermal imagery tells a different story than the official intelligence assessment. She sees it immediately because this is what she's trained to see, what 12 years has taught her to recognize. Heat signatures in positions that should be empty. Disturbed earth patterns consistent with prepared fighting positions. Vehicle tracks that indicate heavy weapons being moved into place. She brings up the images on her own tablet, lays them next to Thomas's official brief. Sir, I need to show you something. The SEAL team gathers around. 12 men in their 30s and 40s, faces weathered by sun and combat, in the particular aging that comes from watching friends die. They look at her satellite analysis with professional interest and barely concealed skepticism. These thermal signatures appeared 16 hours ago, Sarah says, highlighting the images. They haven't moved. That's consistent with prepared defensive positions, not transient movement. This disturbed Earth here, here, and here, those are fighting positions being dug. And these vehicle tracks show displacement consistent with heavy weapons caches. One of the SEALs steps forward. Senior Chief David Keller, call sign Havoc, 6'3", 240 pounds of muscle and scarred tissue and barely contained violence. The kind of man who looks like he was built by the military rather than joining it. How old is this imagery, he asks. His voice carries something besides skepticism, something that sounds like pain. 16 hours, Sarah says. Havoc looks at Thomas. My brother died in that valley 2 years ago. Mikey, remember? Intelligence said the area was clear, said minimal hostile presence, said textbook extraction. The temperature in the hangar seems to drop another 10 degrees. Havoc's voice goes quiet in the way that means he's fighting to keep control. Mikey's convoy hit an ambush. IED followed by coordinated machine gun fire. Intelligence was wrong. My brother was 23 years old and he died because someone in an air-conditioned room looked at satellite photos and saw what they wanted to see instead of what was actually there. He looks at Sarah's imagery, then at Thomas. I'm with MacKenzie. Something's wrong with this op. Thomas stares at the imagery for a long moment. The silence stretches. Every man in the hangar knows what's happening. The team leader is making a decision that will determine whether they come home in body bags or on their feet. Your brother died because he violated extraction protocols, Thomas says finally. His voice is carefully neutral, the tone of someone who has practiced this speech. Mikey went back for a wounded local translator. Direct violation of orders. The Taliban ambushed him during unauthorized deviation from mission parameters. So no, Keller, we're not going rogue on a gut feeling and thermal imagery that could mean anything. Sarah feels something cold settle in her chest. This isn't about sexism or branch rivalry or any of the surface-level conflicts. This is about a man who has lost 14 teammates, who has learned that trusting feelings instead of protocols gets people killed, who has built armor out of regulations because regulations at least make sense in a world that doesn't. Thomas turns to her. Chief Warrant Officer MacKenzie, you're assigned to Overwatch position on the Northern Ridge. You will observe. You will report. You will not engage without my explicit authorization. Intelligence says this valley is clean. Drone coverage confirms no thermal signatures in your area of operations. This is a textbook mission. We've done it 100 times. We'll do it 100 more. He pauses, and for just a moment, the armor cracks enough to show the exhausted human underneath. I need you on that ridge providing security. I don't need you jumping at shadows and compromising the operation. Are we clear? Clear, sir. Good. Wheels up in 90 minutes. Get your gear ready. The SEALs disperse back to their preparations. Sarah stands alone with her partially disassembled rifle and the certain knowledge that Thomas Brennan is sending his team into an ambush because his trauma won't let him trust anything except the official word from people who have never been shot at. The hangar door opens. Captain Frank Morrison enters, weathered in gray and carrying 62 years like a cross. He's in his Class A uniform, which means this is official, which means he's here to deliver orders he doesn't agree with, but will follow anyway because that's what men like Morrison do. They follow orders and they live with consequences, and they never quite wash off what they've seen. He crosses to Sarah, glances at the SEAL team now out of earshot, and speaks quietly. Walk with me, Chief. Outside the hangar, the Afghan sun hammers down with physical force. They walk toward the flight line where an MC-130 combat Talon sits being prepped for the evening insertion. The heat makes the air shimmer. Everything looks like a mirage. Morrison doesn't speak for 30 seconds. When he does, his voice carries the weight of 40 years in uniform. I lied to Brennan's commanding officer. Told them you were cleared for operations, psychologically stable, ready for deployment. You're not. Your last psych eval recommended 6 months minimum before returning to active duty. Possibly longer. Possibly never. Sarah says nothing. What is there to say? I'm sending you anyway, Morrison continues, Because Thomas Brennan is about to lead 12 men into a valley where 60 Taliban fighters are waiting to kill them all. And you're the only person who can stop it. The words hang in the superheated air. Why me? Sarah asks. You could reassign the entire operation. Pull the team. Wait for better intelligence. Morrison shakes his head. I tried. Joint Special Operations Command says the mission is critical. The high-value target is too important. The window is too narrow. The mission goes forward regardless of my objections. He looks at her with eyes that have seen too much. So I'm putting you on that ridge because when the moment comes, when Thomas and his team are driving into the kill zone, you're going to have the same choice your father had in Tikrit. Sarah's chest tightens. You're using me. Morrison doesn't deny it. I'm putting you in position to save 12 lives. What you do with that position is your choice, just like it was your father's choice. He pulls an envelope from his pocket. Weathered, yellowed with age, sealed with wax that cracked years ago, and was carefully preserved anyway. Your father wrote this the night before the Tikrit operation. He gave it to me, told me to give it to you when the time was right. I've carried it for 13 years waiting for that moment. Sarah takes the envelope, her father's handwriting on the front, for Sarah when she understands. Don't open it yet, Morrison says. Open it when you need to understand why he made the choice he made, because you're about to make the same one. He turns to leave, then stops. One more thing. If you violate rules of engagement, if you fire without authorization, if you save those men by breaking every protocol we have, I won't protect you. I'll testify honestly at your court-martial. I'll tell them exactly what happened, and you'll likely spend the next 10 years in Leavenworth. But sir, you just said, I'm the only one who can save them. Morrison's smile is sad and knowing. I'm putting you in position to save them, but I can't order you to violate Roy. That has to be your choice, your decision, your burden to carry, just like it was for your father. He walks away across the tarmac, a 62-year-old man carrying 40 years of decisions he can't undo, wars he can't unfight, soldiers he couldn't save. Sarah stands holding the envelope, feeling the weight of her father's words through the paper. She doesn't open it. Not yet. Some things you need to earn before you're ready to receive them. The MC-130 Combat Talon climbs through 28,000 feet. At this altitude, the air is thin enough that breathing requires supplemental oxygen. The interior of the aircraft is bathed in red light that preserves night vision, turning everything the color of old blood. 18 bodies sit on nylon bench seats, 12 SEALs and 6 Air Force crew, all of them encased in the bulky gear required for high-altitude, low-opening jumps. Sarah sits on the starboard side, her ruck between her knees, the XM-2010 secured in its case against her left hip. Around her, the SEALs go through their pre-jump rituals, equipment checks, buddy checks, the choreographed movements of men who have done this so many times it has become muscle memory. They don't talk to her. She is the outsider, the unknown variable, the Army attachment who might be good or might get them killed, and they won't know until it's too late to matter. The jump master, an Air Force combat controller with the build of a middleweight boxer, walks the line checking oxygen connections and altimeters and automatic activation devices that will deploy parachutes if jumpers pass through 1,500 feet still in freefall, because unconsciousness at altitude is common and death is permanent. When he reaches Sarah, he pauses. First combat halo, Chief? No, Sergeant. Fourth. Good. He checks her bailout bottle, her altimeter, her AAD. Because I've seen experienced jumpers freeze at the door, and at this altitude, freezing means dying. You go out that door, you have 90 seconds of free fall, 90 seconds where you're just a body falling toward Earth at terminal velocity. Some people's brains can't handle it. They lock up, they tumble, they die. You good with that? I'm good with that. He moves on. Sarah closes her eyes. Not to pray. She gave up on God somewhere around target number 15 when she killed a man who turned out to be a local police officer who'd been misidentified by intelligence as Taliban. She doesn't pray anymore because she's stopped believing that anyone is listening. And even if they are listening, she's not sure she wants forgiveness for the things she's done. But there's something ritualistic about the moment before violence. A space where you confront the absolute certainty that you might not survive the next hour and make peace with it. Her father taught her that. On a hunting trip in Montana when she was 14, the day before he deployed to Iraq for what would be his final tour. Fear is just information, he'd said, tracking a deer through autumn wilderness. It tells you that you're at the edge of your capabilities. The question is whether you step back to safety or step forward and expand what you're capable of. She'd asked which he always chose. He'd smiled that half smile that never quite reached his eyes. I step forward every time, Sarah. That's why your mother worries. 4 months later, he was dead. The loadmaster's voice crackles over the intercom. 5 minutes. The team stands as one. Sarah rises with them, checking her gear one final time. Ruck secure, rifle case tight to her body, oxygen flowing. Gloves double-checked because at 28,000 feet, a glove failure means frostbite, means losing fingers. Thomas Brennan moves down the line. He stops in front of each operator, makes eye contact, nods. The silent communication of men who have bled together. When he reaches Sarah, he pauses. For a moment, something flickers in his expression, not warmth exactly, but perhaps the faintest acknowledgement that she is about to jump out of an airplane into a war zone alongside his team, and that requires some baseline level of respect, regardless of branch or gender or any of the surface divisions. Stay on target, Chief. Don't deviate from the planned landing zone. We need you on that ridge, not wandering around the valley floor looking for your drop zone. Yes, sir. He starts to turn away, then stops. And Chief, if you're wrong about the ambush, if this valley is clean, and we come back to find you've been jumping at shadows, that's the end of your attachment to special operations. Clear? Clear, sir. The ramp begins to open. The sound is apocalyptic. The roar of 300-mile-per-hour wind combining with the scream of 4 turboprop engines to create a wall of noise that makes thought impossible. The night sky appears beyond the ramp, a field of stars so dense and bright they look artificial. At this altitude, above most of the atmosphere, the universe shows itself without filters, beautiful and indifferent and infinite. The jumpmaster raises his hand, 5 fingers, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, go, go. Thomas goes first. A running exit, no hesitation, disappearing into the void in less than a second. The rest of the team follows at precise 2-second intervals. Professional, practiced, perfect. Sarah is last. She walks to the edge of the ramp. Below her is nothing, just darkness and the faint suggestion of mountains rendered invisible by night and distance. Somewhere down there, a valley waits. And in that valley, either the quiet resolution of a textbook mission or the carnage she's been trying to warn them about. The jumpmaster slaps her shoulder, the signal. Sarah steps into the void. The violence of the exit slipstream is absolute. For 3 seconds, she is nothing but a body being hammered by physics, wind trying to rip the goggles from her face, demanding she lose control and tumble into a death spiral that will end with her body cratering into Afghan stone at terminal velocity. She fights it, arches her back, spreads her limbs, finds the stable box position that turns a human body into an airfoil. The chaos resolves. The tumbling stops. She is flying. 28,000 feet. The altimeter on her wrist glows green in the darkness. She has approximately 90 seconds before she needs to deploy her parachute. Below her, 7 faint IR strobes mark the SEAL team in formation. They're descending in a tight cluster, military freefall at its most precise, heading toward the designated landing zone on the valley floor. Sarah checks in heading. The drop zone is a small plateau on the valley floor. GPS coordinates burned into her memory. Safe, expected, by the book. But something is wrong. The wind at altitude, the jet stream that was supposed to be flowing west to east at 40 knots, according to the meteorological brief, is hitting her from the southeast. A thermal shear that wasn't in the forecast that's pushing her off course. That's giving her a choice. She can correct for the wind shear, fight back toward the planned drop zone, land with the team, safe, expected, professional. Or she can ride the shear north toward the ridge, toward the high ground, toward the position where she needs to be when everything goes wrong. Below, the SEAL team is correcting their trajectory, tracking back toward the drop zone with professional precision. They're following the plan because the plan is what keeps you alive. Because deviation from the plan is how Havoc's brother died. Because Thomas Brennan has learned through 14 dead teammates that gut feelings get people killed. Sarah looks north. Through her night vision goggles, the darkness resolves into green-tinted clarity. The northern ridge, 2 kilometers from the planned drop zone, but higher, better sight lines, better angles. If she corrects for the wind shear and tracks back to the valley floor, she'll land with the team. Safe, but useless when the ambush triggers. If she rides the sheer north, she'll land alone on the ridge, off-plan, unauthorized, in violation of direct orders, but positioned exactly where she needs to be if when those 12 men drive into a kill zone designed by someone who understands American tactics better than Americans do. Her father's voice echoes in memory. Do you step back to safety or step forward? Thomas's voice on radio, distant and distorted by altitude. All stations, confirm tracking to primary LZ. Sarah's hand hovers over her radio transmit button. She should confirm, should acknowledge, should follow the plan. Instead, she pulls her arms in, changes her body position, accelerates her descent. Instead of fighting the wind shear, she embraces it, lets it carry her north toward the ridge, toward the uncertain terrain and the solo landing and the violation of orders, toward the truth she saw in satellite imagery and nobody else wanted to see. At 6,000 feet, she deploys. The pilot chute catches air, dragging the main canopy out of the container on her back. The opening shock is brutal, a bone-deep deceleration that compresses her spine and reminds her that she is a biological entity subject to physics and gravity and the fundamental laws that govern falling bodies. Then silence. The roar of freefall replaced by the soft rustle of nylon catching air. She looks down. The SEAL team is a mile to her south, 7 canopies drifting toward the valley floor in perfect formation. Professional, coordinated, heading exactly where they're supposed to be. She is alone. She toggles the steering lines, guiding her canopy toward a narrow shelf of rock jutting from the northern ridge face. It's barely large enough to land on, maybe 30 feet by 20, surrounded by vertical drops that will kill her if she misses. But it's positioned perfectly. 300 feet above the valley floor, clear sight lines to the southern approach, hidden from ground observation by an overhang. The perfect sniper hide if you're willing to risk a landing that has maybe 60% chance of success and 40% chance of death by impact with stone traveling at 20 feet per second. Sarah flares the canopy at 20 feet. The ground rushes up. Her boots hit rock, knees flexing to absorb impact through legs trained by 10,000 parachute landing falls. She rolls with the momentum, comes up in a crouch, immediately collapses the canopy before wind can catch it and drag her over the edge. Silence. Just wind and her own breathing and the distant sound of the SEAL team's canopies deploying far to the south. She is on the ridge, alone, unauthorized, in position. She keys her radio using throat mic and encrypted channel. Control, this is Wraith. Boots on deck. I am 2 kilometers north of designated LZ, correcting to Overwatch Point Alpha. Static hisses. Then a voice. Not Thomas. Havoc. Copy Wraith. Viking Actual has wheels down. Moving to objective. The signal is degraded. Mountains chewing up radio waves and creating dead zones. She is effectively alone, cut off, operating on her own judgment for the first time since this operation began. Good. She prefers it that way. Sarah shoulders her ruck, 60 pounds of gear that has become extension of her skeleton, and begins to climb. The slope is brutal. Loose scree that threatens to slide with every step. Vertical rock faces that require free climbing in the dark with 60 pounds on her back. And the altitude 8,000 feet where the air is thin enough to turn every breath into labor. Where moving too fast means hypoxia, means making mistakes, means dying. She climbs for 90 minutes, one deliberate movement at a time. Test the rock, shift weight, move. Silence is religion here because one dislodged stone could alert a sentry 3 miles away, could compromise the only advantage she has, which is that nobody knows she's here. Halfway up, she finds it. A footprint in the dust. Recent, maybe 3 hours old based on the way the thermal signature has faded. Not a boot print, a sandal, local tread pattern, but the depth is wrong, too deep. The person who made this print was carrying weight, equipment, weapons. And the print is pointed down valley toward the SEAL team's insertion point. A spotter, a sentry, someone positioned on the high ground watching the valley floor, waiting for Americans to arrive exactly where intelligence said they would arrive, where decades of American doctrine says they will arrive, where every special operations manual in existence says is the tactically sound insertion point. Sarah keys her radio. Viking Actual, this is Wraith. Be advised I have fresh sign on the northern ridge. High ground may be compromised. Exercise extreme caution. Static hisses. Then Thomas's voice, clear for just a moment before the mountains swallow it again. Wraith, maintain communications discipline. We have drone coverage. Ridge is clear. Stick to your job. He doesn't believe her. Of course he doesn't. He's learned not to believe anything except official intelligence and official doctrine because belief gets people killed, and Thomas Brennan has buried 14 people whose deaths he carries like stones. Sarah looks at the footprint, at the direction it was pointed, at the thermal signature still fading from the ground. She stands, shoulders her ruck, continues climbing toward a truth that nobody else wants to see. The plateau at the summit is a gift from geology and time, a natural depression in the rock, shielded by waist-high boulders and scrub brush that breaks up the human outline. It offers a 180-degree view of the valley floor without silhouetting against the skyline. The perfect hide if you know where to look and how to see. Sarah moves with the economy of someone who has done this 1,000 times in 100 different countries. She deploys the drag bag, a long, low-profile mat that will insulate her body from the freezing ground. She sets up the bipod, settling the XM2010 into position with the mechanical precision that comes from 10,000 repetitions. She drapes camouflage netting over the barrel and her shoulders, breaking up the geometry that human eyes instinctively recognize as threat. Then she settles behind the rifle and looks through the scope. The sun is 15 minutes from cresting the eastern peaks. Civil twilight, the worst time for optics when thermal mirage dances and shadows lie, and distance becomes uncertain. But also the perfect time for an ambush, when defenders are compromised by low light and attackers remain invisible. In the moment of transition from night to day creates confusion that professionals exploit. Sarah scans the valley floor. At 25 times magnification, darkness resolves into shapes: the road, a dirt track beaten hard by decades of war and commerce, and the endless passage of people who didn't choose to be born in a place where empires come to die. The dry riverbed running parallel, carved by water that flows only during brief rainy season. The choke point where the road curves between a massive boulder and the cliff face. The natural place to position a vehicle-borne IED or a rocket-propelled grenade team or both. And there, just visible in the deep shadows where rock meets earth, meets the careful arrangement of stone that looks natural but isn't. Movement. Sarah dials up the magnification, overlays thermal imaging on the optic. The heat signatures bloom like flowers in the darkness. Not animals, not rocks retaining warmth from yesterday's sun. Men, dozens of men moving with purpose and discipline into fighting positions that were prepared days in advance. Her breath catches. It's not just an ambush. It's a masterpiece. An L-shaped kill box designed by someone who has studied American tactics, who has fought Americans before, who understands exactly how SEAL teams operate and precisely where they will be most vulnerable. She begins the count, systematic, professional, building the picture that will determine whether 12 men live or die. 3 RPG teams positioned on elevated ground. Soviet-era RPG-7s, but effective, capable of penetrating the armored GMVs that SEAL teams favor. They're dug into fissures in the rock, nearly invisible, even with thermal imaging, positioned at angles that will allow them to fire down into vehicle tops where armor is weakest. 2 PKM machine gun positions at the base of the cliff, 7.62 millimeter belts fed, interlocking fields of fire that will create a wall of lead across the road the moment the first RPG detonates. Positioned in defilade, which means the SEAL team won't see them until it's too late. 1 DSHK heavy machine gun. The Dishka 12.7 millimeter rounds that can punch through engine blocks like tissue paper, that can disable vehicles and pin down infantry and turn a tactical retreat into a massacre. A 60 millimeter mortar team setting up on the southern slope. Indirect fire that will drop high explosive rounds on anyone trying to escape the kill zone. That will deny maneuver space. That will force the convoy to choose between staying in the fire or driving forward into more fire. And riflemen. 35, maybe 40 riflemen positioned in carefully selected defilade, creating overlapping kill zones with precise military geometry. In the center of it all, coordinating via handheld radio, a man in his 50s, beard gone gray, simple clothes that could belong to a farmer or a merchant or anyone trying to be invisible, but moving with the authority of someone who has commanded men in combat for decades. Commander Rashid Ahmadi. Sarah recognizes him from intelligence briefings. Former Mujahideen, veteran of the Soviet war in the 80s, responsible for at least 200 NATO casualties over the past 5 years. The kind of enemy who doesn't make mistakes because he's been killing foreigners since before Sarah was born. He's positioning his men with the calm expertise of someone arranging chess pieces, checking sight lines, confirming communication, making small adjustments that will mean the difference between good ambush and perfect ambush. Sarah's hands are shaking, not from fear, from the absolute certainty that she is watching 12 men drive toward their own execution, and nobody will listen to her warnings because she's a woman, because she's army, because she's operating on gut feeling instead of official intelligence, because the system doesn't trust people who see things that aren't supposed to be there. She keys the radio, forces her voice steady. Viking actual, this is Wraith. Be advised I have visual on ambush element. Her hands keep shaking. She pauses, counts again to be absolutely certain. Estimate 60+ combatants. Heavy weapons including RPG, machine guns, mortar. This is a complex ambush with prepared positions. Recommend immediate abort. I say again, abort mission and extract. Static. Then Thomas's voice. Not just irritated now. Angry. Wraith, keep the net clear. We are 5 minutes from objective. Drone shows negative thermal on valley floor. You are seeing rocks and shadows, Chief. This is your final warning. Maintain ROI. Do not engage unless you see hostile act directly targeting friendly forces. The transmission cuts. Sarah stares through the scope. At the RPG gunner adjusting his aim point. At the machine gunners testing traverse of their weapons. At Commander Ahmadi speaking into his radio, coordinating timing, preparing to give the order that will detonate this carefully constructed killing machine. They're not rocks. They're not shadows. They're 60 men waiting to kill 12 because intelligence is wrong and doctrine is wrong and the entire system is wrong. But the system doesn't care because the system is run by people in air-conditioned rooms who have never had to look through a scope and watch men die. Sarah checks her watch. 0635 Zulu. The SEAL convoy will enter the valley in 4 minutes. She looks at her rifle, at the magazine loaded with 20 rounds of match-grade 300 Winchester Magnum ammunition. Each round costs $12. Each round is capable of killing a human being at a mile away. 20 rounds, 60 men. The mathematics are impossible. She pulls the small digital recorder from her vest pocket. Military issue, waterproof, encrypted. If she dies here, this recording will be the only evidence of her final moments. She presses record. This is Chief Warrant Officer 3 Sarah MacKenzie. Call sign Wraith. Time is 0636 Zulu, October 15th, 2010. Grid 43, Tango, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Her voice is steady, factual. The voice of someone documenting a decision they know will end their career or their life or both. I have visual confirmation of complex ambush. 60+ enemy combatants with heavy weapons positioned in prepared fighting positions. Friendly element is approaching kill zone and has rejected multiple warnings to abort. Current rules of engagement prohibit engagement without hostile act, but hostile act will result in immediate friendly casualties. Estimated survival time of convoy if ambush initiates is 90 seconds. Estimated killed in action, 12. She pauses, looks through the scope at the dust trail rising in the distance. The convoy, 4 minutes out. She can see them now. 3 GMVs moving in tactical column, 60-meter spacing, exactly as doctrine dictates. Exactly as Ahmadi knew they would move, because he's been killing Americans long enough to predict them like physics. Sarah takes a breath. The air tastes like dust and cordite, and the particular metallic flavor that comes before violence. I am violating direct orders. I am engaging preemptively without authorization. I accept full responsibility for this action. If you are hearing this, I am either dead or in custody. She sets down the recorder, pulls the charging handle of the XM2010. The bolt strips a round from the magazine and seats it in the chamber with that precise mechanical sound that means a weapon is ready to speak its single syllable of violence. Locked, loaded, ready. She settles her cheek against the stock, looks through the scope. The RPG gunner is lifting the launcher to his shoulder, pre-aiming at the point where the lead vehicle will appear in approximately 90 seconds. Sarah's finger moves to the trigger. She can feel the 3.5 pounds of pressure required to break the sear, the exact moment between holding fire and starting a war that will make her either hero or criminal, and the difference is measured in whether 12 men live or die. She thinks about her father, about the building in Tikrit, about the choice between what is legal and what is right. She thinks about Captain Morrison's warning, don't be a hero, be a survivor. She thinks about Thomas Brennan's dismissal, about Havoc Keller's pain, about 12 years of being told she doesn't belong in this world of men and violence. Then she stops thinking. She reaches into her vest pocket, pulls out the envelope Morrison gave her father's letter, the one she's been carrying unopened because some truths you need to earn before you're ready to receive them. She breaks the seal, unfolds paper that has been waiting 13 years to deliver its message. Her father's handwriting, neat and precise like his shooting. Sarah, if you are reading this, I am dead, and you have become me. I am sorry. I wanted a different life for you. But Mackenzies don't choose easy paths. We choose right ones. Today I am about to violate direct orders to save 8 Marines I have never met. Intelligence says the building is clear. My gut says trap. I am trusting my gut. If I am wrong, I am just another dead soldier who disobeyed. If I am right, 8 families keep their sons. Either way, you will grow up without a father. I am sorry for that. But Sarah, when your moment comes, and it will come, choose lives over orders. The system will punish you. History will judge you. But your mirror will show someone who chose the right thing. That is all that matters. I love you. I am proud of you. I forgive you for hating me. Dad, Sarah folds the letter with shaking hands, places it back in her vest pocket over her heart. She looks through the scope at the RPG gunner whose finger is tightening on the trigger, whose launcher is pointed at the exact spot where Thomas Brennan's nephew Marcus will be sitting when the convoy enters the kill zone 60 seconds from now. She thinks about her apartment wall. 43 faces, 43 names, 43 families destroyed by her decisions. She thinks about what that wall will look like when she adds 60 more faces. If she adds 60 more faces. If she survives long enough to go home and write the names and ages and family status of every person she kills in the next 5 minutes. This is what it costs. This never goes away. Sarah exhales, slow and controlled, letting her heart rate drop below 60 beats per minute, letting the chaos fade until there is nothing but the reticle and the target and the mathematics of death. The RPG gunner's finger is tightening. The convoy is 30 seconds from the kill zone. Sarah whispers to the wind, to her father, to the 43 ghosts who watch from her wall, to the God she stopped believing in somewhere around target number 15. Dad, I finally understand. I forgive you too. She squeezes the trigger. The rifle speaks. The rifle speaks its single syllable of violence. A sharp crack that the AAC Titan suppressor swallows and transforms from roar into harsh whisper. The recoil punches Sarah's shoulder with familiar force, the kind of impact that has left a permanent bruise on her right side after 12 years and 43 kills, and now 44. Through the scope, she watches the physics of death. 810 meters away, the 300-grain bullet arrives traveling at 2,900 feet per second. The RPG gunner's head snaps back. For a microsecond suspended in time, Sarah sees everything. The way the bone fragments, the way tissue becomes mist, the way a living person with thoughts and memories and a family waiting somewhere becomes meat in physics in the past tense. Target number 44, name unknown, age approximately 22, based on body structure and movement patterns. Family status unknown, but the way he held that launcher suggested training, suggested experience, suggested someone who had been doing this long enough to be good at it, which means someone who had reasons to keep fighting. He falls. The launcher tumbles from hands that will never hold anything again. It clatters down the scree slope, unfired, useless, a piece of Soviet-era technology that will never send its warhead into Thomas Brennan's vehicle, where his nephew Marcus sits believing that following orders keeps you safe. The sonic crack arrives 3 seconds after the bullet. That is how sound works at distance. The supersonic projectile reaches the target before the report of the shot can travel through the thin mountain air. In those 3 seconds, the world holds its breath, and Sarah works the bolt with the mechanical rhythm that is as natural as breathing after 10,000 repetitions. Up, back, forward, down. The empty brass casing ejects, spinning through the cold morning air, catching first light from the sun, now cresting the eastern peaks. It lands in the dust with a soft metallic ping that nobody will ever hear. The first of many, of fresh round chambers, the bolt locks. She stays on the scope, following through, watching the work. This is the discipline that separates amateurs from professionals. You don't watch your gun, you watch your bullet work. The RPG gunner's body is slumping down the slope in a loose tumble of limbs and fabric. The fighters around him freeze. Confusion ripples through their positions like a wave moving through water. They had been waiting for the explosion, the catastrophic detonation of the RPG hitting the lead SEAL vehicle, the signal that would trigger 60 rifles to open fire simultaneously and turn the valley into a kill zone where nothing American survives. Instead, there is only silence, and their primary gunner is dead, and they don't understand what just happened or where it came from. Down on the valley floor, Sarah hears Thomas Brennan's voice explode over the radio. Contact. Contact front. The words carry the particular tone of a man who has been in combat enough times to recognize the sound of violence, even when he can't see its source. But they haven't seen where the shot came from. They haven't seen the kill. They heard the sonic crack, that sharp snap of a bullet breaking the sound barrier overhead. But the suppressor has hidden her position, and the distance and the angle all combine to make her invisible. The SEALs are reacting with trained precision. Weapons up, scanning for targets that aren't shooting at them yet, looking in the wrong direction because humans instinctively assume threats come from in front, not from 300 feet above and 800 meters north. Where's the contact? Senior Chief Havoc Keller's voice tight with adrenaline and muscle memory, and the ghost of his brother who died in this valley when someone missed the signs. Sarah ignores the radio chatter. She is already scanning for the next target. The ambush is fracturing, but it hasn't collapsed. 60 men don't disappear because one dies. They adapt. They react. They follow training that says when your position is compromised, you either withdraw or you attack, and withdrawal means failure, which means these men will attack. She finds the PKM machine gun position at the base of the cliff. The gunner is racking the charging handle, recovering from confusion, bringing the weapon online. In 5 seconds, he will open fire. The 7.62 by 54 millimeter rounds will chew through the GMV trucks like tissue paper. The interlocking fields of fire from 2 PKM positions will create a wall of lead that nothing survives. Sarah centers the reticle on his chest. The range is closer now, 640 meters. The wind has picked up slightly, southeast at maybe 12 miles per hour. She holds the crosshair 1 mil to the left, compensation for wind drift, accounting for the way air pushes copper jackets traveling at supersonic speeds. She exhales halfway, lets her heart rate drop, finds the space between heartbeats where the body is still and the rifle is still, and the only thing moving is her finger taking up the 3.5 pounds of pressure required to break the sear. Shot number 2. The suppressor swallows the muzzle blast. Through the scope, she watches the bullet impact. The gunner's chest erupts in a spray of dark blood. He falls forward over his weapon, dead before his brain can process pain, dead before he can pull the trigger, dead before the PKM can speak its own language of violence. The weapon goes silent before it can fire a single round. 2 shots, 2 kills, 18 seconds elapsed. The confusion in the valley is deepening into something closer to panic. The enemy fighters are shouting now. Sarah can't hear the words at this distance, but she can read body language. They know they're under attack. They know their heavy weapons are being eliminated with surgical precision, but they can't locate the threat. They're looking at the convoy. They think the fire is coming from the SEALs, because that's what doctrine says. That's what training says. That's what decades of fighting Americans has taught them to expect. They haven't looked up yet. Commander Rashid Ahmadi is different. Through the scope, Sarah sees him 720 meters away, and she sees the moment when understanding arrives. He's not looking at the convoy. He's looking at angles, calculating trajectory, tracing the path of bullets backward to their source. He starts screaming into his radio, pointing not at the valley floor, but at the ridge line, north, toward her position. He's figured it out. Sarah shifts her aim. The commander is the head of the snake. Kill him, and the tactical coordination collapses into chaos. Individual fighters might continue shooting, but without leadership, they're just men with guns, not an organized military force that can execute complex ambushes. She settles the crosshairs on his chest. 720 meters. The angle is steep, shooting downhill, which means the bullet will be affected less by gravity. She needs to aim slightly low to compensate. The wind is quartering now, shifting as the sun heats the valley floor and creates thermals that push air in unpredictable patterns. She squeezes. Shot number 3. Ahmadi spins violently. His chest explodes in a spray that looks black in the early morning light. The radio flies from his hand, tumbling through space, useless electronics that will never transmit another order. He collapses into the dust. His body twitches once, then stillness. Target number 46, Commander Rashid Ahmadi, age 58, former Mujahideen fighter, veteran of the Soviet War, widower, father to 3 daughters killed in American drone strike in 2008, fighting not for ideology, but for revenge, fighting because he had nothing left except the ability to hurt the people who hurt him. Sarah knows his story because she read the intelligence file. She knows about his family. She knows about the drone strike that was supposed to hit a Taliban wedding, but hit his daughter's wedding instead. Precision munitions guided by imperfect intelligence destroying people who weren't supposed to be there. The same intelligence apparatus that said this valley was clear. Through her scope, she sees something fall from Ahmadi's pocket as his body hits the ground. A photograph. She can't make out details at this distance, but she knows what it is because she's seen it in the intelligence photos. A picture of his youngest daughter. The only thing he had left of her after the drone strike vaporized the wedding party. Sarah's hands start shaking, not from recoil, from recognition. He was like her, carrying his dead, trying to make sense of violence that doesn't make sense. Fighting because fighting is the only thing that feels like control in a world where control is an illusion. And she just killed him for it. The Taliban fighters see their commander die. The psychological impact is immediate and devastating. The disciplined ambush that Ahmadi spent days preparing is fracturing in real time. Some fighters are bringing their weapons up, trying to locate the sniper. Others are breaking position, scrambling for deeper cover. And down on the road, the SEAL convoy is finally reacting with the trained precision that comes from years of staying alive in places designed to kill them. Push through, push through. Thomas's voice is raw with command authority and fear, and the understanding that they are in a kill zone and the only way out is forward. Don't stop in the kill box. The 3 GMVs are accelerating, engines roaring, trying to speed through the danger area before the remaining ambush elements can coordinate. Professional. Textbook. Exactly what doctrine says to do when caught in an ambush. But Sarah can see what they can't. On the eastern slope, partially hidden in a ravine, a second RPG team is setting up. They survived her initial scan because they're positioned in dead space, a fold in the terrain that blocks direct line of sight from the road. Now they're preparing to fire at the rear vehicle where the youngest SEAL sits, the one Thomas promised his sister he would bring home alive. If that rocket hits, it will disable the truck, pin the convoy, turn tactical retreat into stationary target practice. She ranges the target, 890 meters, extreme distance where bullet drop becomes severe and wind drift becomes unpredictable, and the margin for error shrinks to inches. The RPG loader is partially concealed behind a boulder. She has a shot on his upper torso, but it's narrow, maybe 8 inches of exposed target, moving with the jerky energy of someone who knows death is close, but doesn't know where it's coming from. The loader is lifting a rocket to the gunner. They're working fast, professional. In 15 seconds, that rocket will be in the tube. In 20 seconds, it will be in the air. In 25 seconds, Marcus Brennan will be dead, and Thomas will have to call his sister and tell her he broke his promise. Sarah adjusts her elevation. Up 2 mils. The bullet will drop nearly 30 feet over this distance. She checks the wind. It has shifted again, coming from the southeast at roughly 10 miles per hour. She holds right, leading the target, compensating for movement in wind and gravity, and all the invisible forces that determine whether copper and lead traveling at supersonic speeds arrive where you want them to. Her finger tightens on the trigger. Shot number 4. The bullet crosses the valley in 1.8 seconds, an eternity compressed into the time it takes to blink. It strikes the loader in the upper chest just below the clavicle. The hydrostatic shock is catastrophic. 180 grains of copper-jacketed lead traveling at 2,900 feet per second carries kinetic energy measured in foot-pounds, and that energy has to go somewhere. It goes into tissue, into bone, into the hydraulic fluid that is human blood forcing its way through vessels not designed to contain sudden pressure spikes. His body jerks backward. The rocket slips from his hands. It falls onto the rocks, rolling down the slope toward his comrades. Unstable ordnance tumbling through space. The RPG gunner lunges for it, trying to salvage the shot, trying to complete the mission, because completing the mission is what professionals do even when everything is falling apart. Sarah is already working the bolt. The mechanical rhythm, up, back, forward, down, brass ejecting, fresh round chambering. She doesn't have time to recalculate. The gunner is moving fast. She holds the same sight picture, same elevation, same wind call. Shot number 5. The gunner's head disappears in a pink mist. He falls across the rocket, his body weight preventing it from rolling further down the slope toward the rest of the team, who are now flat against the ground, making themselves small, paralyzed by the realization that death is arriving from a direction they can't see. 5 shots, 5 kills, 90 seconds of combat. The Taliban's heavy weapons are silent. The RPG teams eliminated. The PKM positions neutralized. Commander Ahmadi dead. The disciplined, L-shaped ambush has dissolved into scattered defensive posture. Fighters hunkering down, trying to make themselves invisible, praying to Allah that the invisible jinn on the mountain can't see them. On the valley floor, the convoy has pushed through the initial kill zone. The 3 GMVs are still rolling, but they've slowed. Not stopped because stopping is death, but slowed enough for Thomas to make tactical assessment. All stations, Viking actual. His voice is different now. The professional distance is cracking. We are taking fire from pause. Uncertainty filtering through training. Unknown position. Effective suppression on heavy weapons. Havoc, you see the shooter? Negative boss. Havoc's voice. I got nothing, but somebody's dropping them like they got a crystal ball. Sarah allows herself a microsecond of grim satisfaction. They're beginning to understand, beginning to realize that the woman they dismissed is the only reason they're still alive. She scans the valley through her scope. The remaining fighters are regrouping. She counts quickly. Approximately 45 combatants, still combat effective. They're no longer in optimal ambush positions, but they're still a significant force. And they're angry. She can see it in their movements, the frantic gestures, the way they're pointing toward the northern ridge, toward her. They're figuring it out. Not all of them, not the young ones who are just trying not to die, but the veterans, the ones who have been fighting long enough to understand ballistics and angles and the mathematics of death. They know approximately where she is, which means they can start shooting back. Then Sarah sees the new threat. On the southern cliff face, deep in a vertical crevice that provides perfect concealment, a muzzle flash. Not the chaotic spray of an AK-47 on full automatic. A single deliberate shot. The signature of a precision rifle. An enemy sniper. Sarah's blood goes cold. She scans frantically through the scope, trying to locate him. There, in a fissure about 200 meters up the cliff face. She can barely make out the shape of a man and the distinctive profile of a Dragunov SVD, Russian-made designated marksman rifle. Effective range 800 meters in the hands of someone who knows how to use it. Lethal. Down in the valley, she hears Havoc's voice, sudden and sharp. Man down, man down. Actual is hit. No. Through her scope, Sarah sees Thomas spin and collapse behind the wheel well of the lead GMV. The SEALs are immediately moving, dragging him to cover, returning fire at targets they can't see. The enemy sniper hit the SEAL commander center mass. The plate carrier probably caught it, but Thomas is out of the fight. Leadership decapitated. And now the enemy sniper is scanning, looking for his next target. Sarah knows what a smart shooter does. You kill the commander first, then you kill the medic. Destroy leadership and medical capability in 2 shots. She finds the Dragunov's position again. The enemy sniper is good. He's deep in cover, showing only inches of his profile. A tiny target at 625 meters in a vertical fissure with shadow and rock providing concealment. She centers her reticle on the dark shadow of the crevice. She can't see his face, can't see his chest, can only see the vague shape of a human form behind rock and shadow and the distortion caused by heat mirage rising from her own barrel. The rifle has fired 5 rounds in 2 minutes. It's heating up. The suppressor is radiating thermal waves that shimmer the air and distort the optics. Precision is degrading with every shot. She compensates, holds high, prays to physics and trigonometry and the accumulated experience of 12 years behind a rifle. Shot number 6. The bullet sparks off of the rock face 3 inches from the enemy sniper's head. Miss. Through the scope, she sees him react. Not flinching, not retreating. He does something worse. He turns toward her. The Dragunov's barrel swings, elevates, rotates until it's pointing directly at the northern ridge, directly at her position. He's seen her muzzle flash, or calculated her position from the angle of her shots, or simply made an educated guess based on terrain analysis and professional experience. It doesn't matter how he knows where she is. This is no longer a one-sided engagement. This is a duel. Sarah works the bolt, muscle memory overriding the fear trying to freeze her fingers. She has to fire again before he does, before he can settle his aim and send a 7.62 by 54 millimeter round across the valley into her skull. She doesn't have time to recalculate wind, doesn't have time to adjust for the thermal distortion. She holds the same sight picture, center mass on the shadow in the fissure, but this time she adjusts lower. The first shot went high, wind or mirage or her own adrenaline affecting trigger control. Through her scope, she sees the muzzle flash from the Dragunov. The universe compresses into a single instant of physics improbability. His bullet crosses the valley at 2,800 feet per second. Her bullet is already in flight, traveling at 2,900 feet per second. 2 pieces of copper-jacketed lead, each one capable of ending a human life, passing each other somewhere in the middle of the void. Sarah hears the sonic crack microsecond before the bullet arrives. Snap, hiss, the sound of air being torn apart by supersonic passage. The round passes so close to her head that she feels the pressure wave, feels the displaced air slap against her right ear like an invisible hand. Something warm and wet runs down the side of her neck. Blood. The sonic shock wave has been close enough to split the skin. 2 inches. If the enemy sniper's aim had been 2 inches to the left, her head would have exploded like the RPG gunners. 2 inches. The margin between life and death measured in the width of a finger. Through the scope, she sees the Dragunov rifle tip forward, sees it slide out of the fissure and tumble down the cliff face, bouncing off rocks in a chaotic descent that ends with metal and wood shattering against stone 400 feet below. Shot number 7. The enemy sniper is dead. Target number 50. Name unknown, age unknown. Former Afghan National Army trained by Americans, turned against Americans after his brother was killed by drone strike in 2009. Fighting because the people who taught him how to kill gave him reason to use that training against them. Sarah's hands are shaking violently now. Not from fear. Fear comes later in the quiet moments when the body remembers how close death was. This is adrenaline, the chemical cocktail of survival overriding rational thought, making her fingers feel numb and her vision too sharp and her heart hammer against her ribs hard enough to hurt. She touches her ear. Her glove comes away red. The wound is superficial, a graze from the sonic boom, not the bullet itself. If his aim had been 2 inches different, she would be dead. 2 inches between this moment and darkness and the sudden stop at the end of everything. She forces herself to breathe, to push the shaking down into a box where it can't affect her shooting. There's no time for fear. The fight is still happening. The valley is still full of men with guns who want her dead. She keys her radio. Viking, Wraith, target down. Southern Cliff sniper eliminated. Havoc's voice comes back immediately. Different now. No skepticism, no dismissal, just raw respect and something approaching awe. Wraith, was that you? The machine guns? The ARP? That sniper, that was all you? Affirmative. A pause, then Havoc's voice again, quieter. Holy shit. But there's no time to process it. Through her scope, Sarah sees new movement on the southern slope. A weapons team setting up something that makes her blood freeze. A 60 millimeter mortar. The mortar is ancient technology. A tube, a base plate, and high explosive rounds that arc through the air and rain down on targets hiding behind cover. You don't need to see your enemy to kill them with a mortar. You just need coordinates and ammunition and the willingness to drop explosive hate from the sky. The mortar team has all 3. Sarah watches them through the scope. 3 men, one setting the base plate, adjusting it to level on the uneven ground. One setting the elevation of the tube, using a bubble level and protractor to calculate the angle required to drop rounds on the seal position. One preparing the shells, high explosive ordnance that will kill through fragmentation and overpressure, and the simple physics of metal moving faster than flesh can withstand. They're 1,150 meters away, pushing the absolute limit of the 300 Winchester Magnum's effective range. At this distance, the bullet will drop nearly 34 feet. The wind will push it 4 to 5 feet to the right. The flight time will be over 2 seconds. 2 seconds for the wind to shift, for the target to move, for chaos to intervene and turn a perfect shot into a miss that costs 12 lives. But if she doesn't stop them, they will drop rounds directly on the SEAL position. High explosive falling from the sky. There is no cover from indirect fire. The GMVs will become steel coffins. The men inside will die from overpressure that liquefies internal organs, or from fragmentation that shreds tissue, or from the simple catastrophic trauma of being too close to an explosion. The mortar loader lifts around. High explosive. Sarah can see the dark shape of the shell against his light-colored clothing. He's preparing to drop it into the tube. Once it drops, the primer at the base of the shell will strike the firing pin at the bottom of the tube, and the round will launch, and there's no calling it back. Sarah adjusts her elevation turret. Click, 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 click. She's counting the mills of adjustment by feel, by muscle memory, by the accumulated experience of 10,000 shots in 100 different conditions. She checks her wind call. The heat shimmer is dancing above her barrel. The thermal mirage distorts everything. Precision degrades with every shot as the barrel heats and the suppressor radiates waves that bend light. But she's made harder shots in worse conditions. She centers the reticle on the loader. He's holding the round above the mouth of the mortar tube. In 3 seconds, he'll drop it. In 4 seconds, it will be in the air. In 10 seconds, it will land on the SEAL position. Sarah exhales slowly, letting her heart rate drop below 60 beats per minute, letting the tremor in her hands fade, finding the space between heartbeats where the world is still. Shot number 8. The bullet leaves the barrel at 2,900 feet per second. It begins dropping immediately, following the parabolic arc of all ballistic objects. Gravity pulls it down. Wind pushes it right. The thin air at altitude affects its stability. For 2.1 seconds, Sarah holds her breath. Through the scope, she sees the impact. Not on the loader. She missed by 6 inches. The bullet strikes the rocky ground at his feet. He flinches, stumbles backward, drops the mortar round. It hits the ground with a dull thud but doesn't detonate. Mortar rounds have safety mechanisms. They won't arm until they've traveled a certain distance through the air, built up enough centrifugal force to unlock the firing mechanism. A drop from waist height isn't enough, but the loader is panicking, shouting, pointing at the mountain, at her, at the invisible death that just arrived within inches of ending him. Damn it! Sarah works the bolt, ejects the spent casing, chambers a fresh round. She recalculates. The miss was low and left. She needs to hold higher and favor the right edge more. Account for the wind that's stronger than she thought. Account for the mirage that's worse than she estimated. The loader is scrambling to retrieve the dropped round. The gunner is screaming at him, gesturing frantically. They know they're being targeted. They know they have seconds before the next bullet arrives. They know, and they're trying to complete the mission anyway, because professionals finish the job even when everything is falling apart. Sarah adjusts, up 1 click. She breathes. Shot number 9. This time, the bullet finds its target. The loader's chest erupts. The hydrostatic shock throws him backward into the ammunition crate stacked behind the mortar position. He doesn't move again. Target number 51. Name unknown. Age approximately 18 based on the way he moved. The uncertainty in his hands. The fear visible, even at 1,100 meters. First combat, last combat, someone's son, someone's brother. Dead because he was standing in the wrong place when Sarah MacKenzie looked through a scope and made a decision. But the gunner is still there, and he's desperate. He grabs the fallen mortar round himself, moving with frantic speed toward the tube. If he gets that round in the air, he doesn't need precision. He just needs to hit somewhere near the convoy. The fragmentation will do the rest. Sarah is already working the bolt. No time to recalculate, no time to adjust. She holds the same sight picture, the same elevation, the same wind call. The gunner is lifting the round to the mouth of the tube. She squeezes. Shot number 10. The bullet strikes the ammunition crate behind the gunner. For a microsecond, nothing happens. Then physics and chemistry take over. The bullet's kinetic energy, 2,500 foot-pounds at impact, transfers into the crate. into the mortar rounds stacked inside, into the propellant charges that launch the shells. The impact is enough. The charges ignite. The explosion is a white-hot bloom that expands faster than thought. The mortar tube is hurled sideways, spinning through the air like a thrown spear. The gunner simply ceases to exist, vaporized in the blast, turned from living person to component atoms in the microsecond it takes for high explosive to do its work. The shock wave rolls across the valley floor, visible as a distortion in the air, a ripple in reality that moves outward from the epicenter at the speed of sound. 2 seconds later, the sound reaches Sarah's position, a dull crump that she feels in her chest more than hears. Jesus Christ! Havoc's voice on the radio, raw with shock. Wraith, was that the mortar team is gone? Sarah knows the truth. The SEAL team didn't get anything. She killed the mortar team. Shot number 10 eliminated the indirect fire threat. 10 shots, 10 kills, 10 families somewhere waking up this morning not knowing that today is the day they become families of the dead. But she can't think about that now. Can't let herself feel it. The faces will come later. The names will come later. The research into who they were and who they left behind will come later in her apartment when the defenses are down and the wall of photographs demands additions. Right now, she has to keep them alive. Down in the valley, the Taliban fighters are breaking. The discipline that Commander Ahmadi instilled is gone. They've watched their heavy weapons eliminated by an invisible enemy. They've watched their commander die. They've watched a mortar team evaporate in sympathetic detonation. They've learned that fighting back means dying, and the human survival instinct is finally overriding tactical training. The survivors are trying to escape. 8 fighters break from cover on the eastern slope. They're sprinting toward a ravine that will give them an escape route. Moving fast, panicked, abandoning their positions and their mission, and they're dead because staying means joining them. But 8 of them aren't running away. 8 are moving with purpose toward the SEAL position. Not retreating, flanking, trying to get close enough to use grenades and automatic weapons at ranges where marksmanship doesn't matter, where volume of fire and explosive radius overcome precision. Sarah checks her magazine. She's fired 10 rounds. She has 10 remaining. 10 bullets for 8 men who are trying to kill 12. The mathematics are barely possible, and her left arm is throbbing. She's been so focused on the shooting that she pushed the pain into the background. But now it's demanding attention, a deep, hot ache that radiates from her tricep to her shoulder. She glances down. Blood, dark red soaking through her sleeve. Not a graze, an actual wound. Through and through, the fabric torn, the flesh beneath torn worse. When did that happen? During the sniper duel? During the suppressive fire when the Taliban fighters finally located her general position and started shooting back? She can't remember. The adrenaline masked it. The focus overrode the pain signals. She touches the wound gently, feels torn fabric, feels hot wetness underneath. The bullet went through the meat of her tricep, missing bone and major vessels by millimeters. She can still use the arm, but barely. The muscle is compromised. She keys the radio. Viking, Wraith, I'm hit. Left arm, still operational. Negative Wraith. Havoc's voice is firm. Extract to secondary position. We'll push up and cover you. Negative. Sarah interrupts. You have 8 hostiles breaking left, moving to flank your position. If they get into grenade range, you're compromised. I have the shot. Stay in cover. She doesn't wait for response. She brings the rifle back up, forces her left arm to support the forestock. The muscle spasms. White-hot pain radiates through her shoulder. Her vision tunnels. Gray spots dance at the edges. She bites down on the inside of her cheek. The sharp pain is clarifying. It pushes the gray away. Through the scope, she tracks the lead runner. He's moving fast, using the terrain well, bounding from cover to cover, a trained fighter. Maybe former Afghan National Army, maybe just experienced enough to know how to move under fire. Sarah doesn't care about his history. She only cares about the mathematics. Range 680 meters. Target moving at approximately 15 miles per hour at a 45-degree angle to her position. She needs to lead him. Put the reticle ahead of his movement. Let him run into the bullet. She tracks him. Smooth movement of the rifle matching his speed. When the reticle is 2 feet ahead of his chest, she fires. Shot number 11. The runner drops mid-stride. His momentum carries him forward in a tumbling fall that ends with his body wedged between 2 rocks. Target number 52. She doesn't let herself think about him, doesn't let herself wonder about name or age or family. There will be time for that later. Right now, there are 7 more. Sarah works the bolt. Her left arm is screaming. The recoil is compounding the damage, each shot making the wound worse. She can feel warm blood running down to her elbow, pooling in the crook of her arm. She tracks the second fighter. He's seen his companion fall. He's trying to change direction, trying to make himself unpredictable, trying to survive. Shot number 12. The bullet catches him in the upper chest. He spins, falls, tries to crawl toward cover, stops moving after 3 feet. The remaining 6 have gone to ground. They're not running anymore. They're pinned, realizing that moving means dying. But one of them, young, maybe 20, is crawling toward an abandoned PKM machine gun. The weapon is still there, lying next to its dead operator. If he reaches it, if he can bring that gun into action, the SEALs will be suppressed, pinned down, unable to maneuver. Sarah's hands are shaking. Blood loss, adrenaline dump, shock trying to set in. She forces her breathing to slow, forces her heart rate down. This shot matters more than the others. This isn't just eliminating a threat. This is psychological warfare. The young fighter reaches the machine gun. His hands close around the grips. He's trying to swing it toward the SEAL position. Sarah settles the reticle on his chest. Shot number 13. The fighter collapses across the machine gun, his body draped over it, lifeless. Target number 54. The count is accelerating. The faces are piling up. The psychological impact ripples through the remaining 5 Taliban fighters like a shockwave. They just watched 3 men die trying to reach that gun. The weapon has become cursed, untouchable. Anyone who approaches it dies immediately. The remaining fighters aren't moving. They're hugging the earth, trying to make themselves invisible, praying that the ghost on the mountain can't see them through rock and shadow and fear. Down on the road, the SEALs are moving. Sarah can see them through the scope, advancing in tactical column, Havoc in the lead with his MK-48 machine gun sweeping for targets. They're taking advantage of the suppression she's providing, using her kills as covering fire. Wraith, we are pushing toward rock formation. Thomas's voice, strained with pain but functional. The plate carrier saved his life, but his ribs are probably fractured. Every breath hurts, every movement hurts, but he's still leading because that's what commanders do. They lead until they can't. Cover us, Thomas says. Copy. Sarah scans the valley. The 5 pinned fighters are no longer a threat. They're too terrified to move. But there's still the main body of riflemen who were positioned in the original ambush line. Approximately 35 fighters. They're regrouping, trying to establish a new defensive position. And they're learning. They've figured out that the sniper is on the northern ridge. They're bringing their rifles up, scanning the ridgeline, looking for her. Then she sees it. 3 fighters moving with purpose up a goat trail. Not fleeing, not fighting, moving toward the ridge, toward her position. They're coming for her. She checks her magazine. 7 rounds remaining. 7 rounds to hold off 35 fighters and 3 who are actively hunting her. The mathematics have stopped being possible. Now it's just desperation and ammunition management and the certain knowledge that she's going to die on this ridge. But not yet, not until the SEALs are clear. Through the scope, she watches the SEAL convoy reaching the rock formation. Thomas is being helped out of the lead vehicle. His plate carrier saved his life, but he's moving like every rib is broken. He can stand, that's something. The medic is working on him, the rest of the team establishing defensive perimeter. They're safe, for now. But Sarah isn't. She's 2,000 meters away, wounded, low on ammunition, and about to be overrun by fighters who know exactly where she is. She keys the radio. Viking, I'm tracking 3 hostiles moving up the northern approach. They're coming from my position. Copy, Wraith. Thomas's voice tight with pain. And something else. Guilt, maybe. Hold what you can. We're rigging tow bar. Lead truck is combat ineffective. Radiator is shredded. Engine block cracked. We need static obscures transmission. 3 minutes. Can you hold for 3 minutes? Sarah looks at her rifle, at the blood-soaked sleeve of her left arm, at the 3 fighters climbing toward her position 300 meters away and closing fast. 3 minutes, 180 seconds, 7 rounds. The mathematics are impossible, but she's been doing impossible things all morning. Affirmative, 3 minutes. She releases the transmit button, looks at the valley floor one more time, at the bodies scattered across the scree, at the smoke rising from the mortar position, at the SEALs working frantically to get the damaged vehicle mobile. 3 minutes. She can do 3 minutes. She has to do 3 minutes. Because that's what Mackenzies do. They hold the line. They pay the price. Even when the price becomes unbearable, Sarah MacKenzie settles behind her rifle. 7 rounds remaining. 3 men climbing toward her. 35 more in the valley below. The sun is fully up now. The valley floor bathed in harsh Afghan light. Everything is visible. Everything is exposed, including her. The 3 climbers are 250 meters away, moving fast, professional. They have radios. They're coordinating. These aren't amateur fighters. These are trained soldiers who have been killing Americans long enough to be good at it. Sarah makes a decision. She can't stay in this position. They know where she is. She needs to move, create uncertainty, make them guess. She grabs the drag bag, the rifle, her gear, stands up. The world tilts violently. Blood loss, dehydration, exhaustion. Her body presenting the bill for what she's asked it to do. She stumbles backward, away from the hide, finds a secondary position 15 meters to the west. Lower, worse sight lines, but unexpected. She drops into the new hide, sets up the rifle, scans for the 3 climbers. There, closer now, moving with tactical competence, bounding overwatch. 1 moves while 2 cover. Sarah settles behind the rifle. Her left arm is nearly useless. She improvises, uses a rock to support the forestock instead of her hand. It's not ideal. It will affect accuracy, but it's all she has. The lead climber comes into view, 200 meters away, moving carefully up the scree slope. She centers the reticle. Shot number 14. The climber falls, tumbles down the slope in a loose sprawl of limbs. The other 2 go to ground immediately. She's lost the element of surprise. They know she's still active, still dangerous, but they also know she's wounded. They've seen the blood trail. They know she displaced from her original position. They're hunting an injured animal, and injured animals can be run to ground. Sarah's vision is graying, the edges of her sight fuzzy, soft. She shakes her head violently. Focus. 3 minutes. Just hold for 3 minutes. Through the scope, she can't see the 2 remaining climbers. They're in cover, waiting, patient. Then movement. One of them flanking, moving around her position, trying to get behind her. She tracks him, sees him for just a second as he crosses between 2 boulders. Shot number 15. The bullet sparks off rock. Miss. He's moving too fast. The compromised shooting position affecting her accuracy. Damn it! 5 rounds remaining. 2 climbers still active. And down in the valley, she can see new movement. The main body of Taliban fighters recovering from shock. Organizing. Approximately 20 fighters beginning to maneuver toward the SEAL position. And then Sarah sees something that makes her blood go cold. The escape route. The road out of the valley. There's something wrong with it. She scans the exit point through her scope. The road narrows between 2 cliff faces. Natural choke point. And there, barely visible beneath a pile of rocks that looks natural but isn't, she sees the glint of wire. An IED, a daisy chain of buried artillery shells, and positioned next to the largest buried device, a propane tank. Painted dust-colored. Camouflage. But the tank will amplify the explosion. Turn a simple IED into a fuel air bomb that will vaporize anything in a 100-meter radius. And 300 meters up the slope, hidden in a cleft of rock, a man holding detonator wires. The trigger man, Ahmadi's cousin. One of the last surviving family members from the 2008 drone strike. Fighting not for ideology, but for the same reason Ahmadi fought. Because American precision weapons took everyone he loved and left him with nothing except rage. Sarah keys the radio, her voice ragged, desperate. Viking, stop. Do not advance on exit route. IED ahead. Daisy chain at grid 44 Sierra. Propane amplifier. If you drive through there, you're dead. Wraith, we can't stay here. Thomas's voice tight, angry. We're taking fire from multiple positions. We have to move. If you move, you hit the IED. Then we'll go slow. Mark it with IR. We'll navigate around. You won't make it. The trigger man is watching. He'll detonate as soon as you're in kill radius. Static. Then Thomas's voice. What's the solution, Wraith? Sarah looks through the scope at the trigger man. He's deep in cover. She can't get a shot on him. He's showing only his hands in the wires, a target 6 inches wide at 900 meters. If she kills him, he might clench his hands in death and detonate the chain anyway. Dead man's trigger. She can't kill the trigger man. She has to kill the bomb. Her eyes track to the propane tank. Thin metal, pressurized gas inside. If she can puncture it, the gas will vent, create a cloud of fuel waiting for ignition. Then she'll need a spark. The idea is insane, a 1 in 1,000 shot, but it's the only option that doesn't end with 12 dead SEALs. Viking, button up. Seal your vehicles now. Wraith, what are you going to do? Just do it. Trust me. She doesn't wait for confirmation. She settles the rifle. The propane tank is 880 meters away. The wind is gusting. The mirage is terrible. Her left arm is useless. Her vision is tunneling. She aims at the tank. Shot number 16. The bullet punches through the thin metal. She sees the impact, sees the jet of white gas begin venting into the air. The propane mixing with oxygen, creating a cloud of volatile fuel-air mixture waiting for ignition. But no spark. The bullet didn't create enough friction. It just punctured the tank. The triggerman sees the gas cloud, understands what she's trying to do. He starts pulling the detonator wires, trying to set off the IED before she can ignite the propane. Sarah's mind racing. She needs a spark, metal on stone. She aims not at the tank, but at the rocky ground directly beneath it. Flinty granite that will create sparks when struck by high-velocity projectile. 4 rounds remaining. She fires. Shot number 17. The bullet hits granite. A shower of sparks erupts into the cloud of venting propane. The world turns white. The fuel-air explosion is instantaneous, catastrophic. The propane cloud ignites in a massive fireball that expands faster than the eye can track. The heat's so intense it creates its own wind. The pressure wave detonates the buried artillery shells in sympathetic explosion. The ground where the IED was simply ceases to exist. A crater 40 feet wide appears. The cliff faces on either side shatter, rain debris. The triggerman is thrown from his hiding spot by the blast, his body tumbling down the slope like a ragdoll. The shock wave hits Sarah's position 3 seconds later. A physical force that knocks her backward, drives air from her lungs, makes her ears ring with high-pitched whine that drowns out everything. She lies on her back, staring at blue sky, unable to hear, barely able to breathe. Her body has reached its limit. Through the ringing in her ears, she hears a voice, distant, distorted. Holy Mother of God. Thomas Brennan, awed, terrified. Wraith, the IED is gone. Sarah forces herself to roll over, to grab the rifle, to look through scope at the result of shot number 17. The IED belt is gone, completely destroyed. The road cleared, a smoking crater but passable. And the SEALs are moving. She can see the convoy surging forward, driving around the crater, accelerating toward the exit. They're going to make it, but Sarah isn't. She's fired 17 of her 20 rounds. She has 3 left, and the 2 climbers are still on the ridge, coming for her. She tries to key the radio. Her hand won't cooperate. The fingers numb, clumsy. Through the scope, she sees the SEAL convoy disappear around a bend in the valley, sees the dust trail fade. They're safe. Her vision is fading, gray turning to black at the edges. She's lost too much blood, done too much, asked her body for more than it could give. The last thing she sees before darkness takes her is 2 figures cresting the ridge, running toward her position, rifles raised. She held for 3 minutes. Now she has to survive what comes next. Consciousness returns in fragments. Not the gentle emergence of waking from sleep, but the violent resurrection of a body that shut down to preserve itself and is now being dragged back into awareness by pure survival instinct. Pain arrives first, white-hot and all-consuming, radiating from her left arm in waves that make her vision strobe. Then sound, the crunch of boots on scree. Close, too close. Then smell. Her own blood, acrid and metallic, mixed with dust and cordite that seems permanently embedded in her sinuses. Sarah's eyes snap open. 2 fighters are 30 meters away, moving toward her previous position. They haven't seen her yet. She displaced during her blackout. Or had she? Her memory's fractured, shattered like safety glass. She looks down. She's behind a different boulder, lower on the ridge, 15 meters from where she collapsed. Had she crawled here? She can't remember. Instinct moved her, the animal brain taking over when the conscious mind surrendered. The body's refusal to die in the open. The XM-2010 is still in her hands. Even unconscious, she didn't let go of the rifle. Muscle memory stronger than death. She checks the magazine by feel. 3 rounds. The mathematics are simple and unforgiving. 2 fighters, 3 bullets. If she needs more than 2 shots, she'll die before she can use the third. Her left arm is useless. The tourniquet she applied, when had she done that, is soaked through. Dark red, almost black. Arterial blood. She's on borrowed time. Minutes, not hours. The fighters are speaking in Pashto. Low voices, coordinating. One is gesturing toward the blood trail she left, following it like hunters tracking wounded game. They know she's here. They know she's dying. They're being careful because dying things are dangerous in their final moments. Sarah's right hand moves slowly, deliberately. She can't risk sudden movement. She sets the rifle down with infinite care. The sound of metal on stone would carry, would alert them, would end this before she's ready. She draws the Gerber LMF2 combat knife from her belt. 7 inches of blackened steel designed for one purpose: killing in silence. She can't shoot them. The suppressor has muffled 17 shots, but it's a mechanical device with limits. The baffles are eroding. The next shot might be loud enough to alert the 35 fighters still in the valley below. And once they know exactly where she is, they'll swarm the position. Numbers and automatic weapons will overwhelm precision. She has to do this quietly. The first fighter is 10 meters away now, young, maybe 19, following the blood trail with his AK-47 raised, finger on trigger. Professional, alert, dangerous. But he's looking in at the ground, at the blood, not at the shadows where a woman with a knife can be waiting. Sarah presses herself flat against the boulder, controls her breathing, slows her heart rate, makes herself part of the rock. The stone is sun-warmed against her back. Solid, real. She focuses on that sensation, uses it to push away the gray fog threatening to pull her under again. The fighter steps past her position, 6 feet away, 5, 4. She moves. It's not elegant. Her body is damaged, depleted, operating on fumes and desperation. But violence doesn't require elegance. It requires commitment and surprise. Sarah lunges from behind the boulder. Her right arm wraps around the fighter's throat, yanking him backward, off balance. The knife comes up in a reverse grip. She drives it down into the soft tissue where neck meets shoulder, the subclavian artery. Anatomy lesson from combat medic training. Years ago, in a sterile classroom that smelled nothing like blood and fear. The fighter tries to scream. The sound comes out as a wet gurgle. His AK clatters on the rocks. His hands come up, scrabbling at her arm, but his strength is already fading. The blood loss catastrophic. The human body contains approximately 5 liters. The subclavian artery can drain that in under 2 minutes when severed. He has seconds. Sarah holds him, counts the seconds, feels his struggles weaken. This boy, because that's what he is, just a boy, had been trying to kill her. But he's also someone's son, someone's brother. And the small part of Sarah that's still human, still capable of recognizing the cost of violence, wants to grant him the dignity of a quiet death. She lowers him to the ground as gently as she can. His eyes are already glazing. The 1,000-yard stare that means the soul has left and only meat remains. Target number 55. Name unknown. Age approximately 19. Family status unknown, but he was carrying a photograph in his pocket. Sarah sees it now, falling from his shirt as his body settles. A family portrait. Parents, 3 younger siblings, all looking at the camera with the forced smiles that come from knowing the photographer only has 1 shot and film is expensive. The second fighter is calling out. A question in Pashto. Where are you? Did you find her? Sarah picks up the fallen AK-47, checks it by feel. Magazine seated, round chambered, safety off. She can't shoot it. Too loud, but she can use it as a club if needed. She presses herself against the rocks, waiting. The second fighter appears around the boulder. Older than the first, 30-something, beard streaked with gray. He sees his companion's body. His eyes go wide. He starts to raise his rifle. Sarah hits him with the AK stock, a lateral strike to the temple. The impact makes a sound like a mallet hitting wet clay. He goes down hard, not dead, unconscious. She could kill him, should kill him. He'll wake up in minutes and sound the alarm. But she's seen the family photo in the first fighter's pocket. A woman, 2 small children. She can't keep doing this. Can't keep taking fathers from families. Not when it's no longer necessary for survival. She takes his rifle, his radio, leaves him breathing in the dust. Then she runs, not the tactical movement of a trained operator, just the desperate, lurching sprint of someone whose body is failing, but whose will won't accept death. She half runs, half falls down the backside of the ridge, sliding on scree, tumbling over rocks, leaving a blood trail that a child could follow. Behind her, she hears shouting. The second fighter has woken up faster than she expected. He's screaming into his radio. Coordinates, direction, the ghost is moving, the ghost is wounded, the ghost can be caught. Sarah reaches a ravine, a vertical cut in the stone maybe 200 feet deep, carved by millennia of flash floods. It's a natural trap. Once she's in it, there's only one direction to go, down. If they catch her in the ravine, she'll have no maneuver space, no options. She jumps anyway. The fall is controlled for the first 10 feet, then gravity and momentum take over. She's sliding, tumbling, grasping at rocks that tear through her gloves and shred her palms. The rifle is still strapped across her back. It slams into her spine with every impact. The pain transcendent, beyond physical sensation. Pure information screaming that her body is being destroyed. She hits the bottom of the ravine on her back. The impact drives air from her lungs. Ribs crack. She knows that sensation, felt it before. This is worse. Multiple fractures, probably. For a long moment, she lies in the sandy creek bed, staring up at the strip of blue sky visible between the ravine walls. Just breathe, she tells herself. Just breathe. But breathing hurts. Everything hurts. Her radio crackles. Thomas Brennan's voice. Distant, distorted by stone walls. Wraith, respond. What is your status? She can't reach the transmit button. Her right arm isn't responding properly. Nerve damage, muscle tear, doesn't matter. The result is the same. She can't key the mic. Wraith, we are 5 clicks out. Thomas again. We don't see your IR strobe. What is your position? She tries to speak, to key the mic. Her hand flops uselessly against her vest. Above her, on the rim of the ravine, figures appear. 4, 6, 8. Taliban fighters looking down into the ravine. They've followed the blood trail. They found her. One of them raises AK, takes aim. Sarah's right hand finally finds the grip of her Sig Sauer P226. 15 rounds of 9mm. She'd forgotten about it. Forgotten she had a pistol. The blood loss affecting her thinking, making her stupid. She raises the Sig, fires 3 rounds upward. Not aimed shots, just suppression. Buying seconds. The fighters jerk back from the rim. The range is too great for a pistol to be truly effective. Maybe 70 feet. But the psychological impact is there. The ghost still has fight. The ghost still has bullets. Sarah forces herself to roll over, to crawl. The sandy creek bed is soft. Each movement leaves a drag mark like a wounded animal. She pulls herself around a bend in the ravine, out of direct line of sight from above. 20 meters. It feels like 20 miles. She stops, presses her back against the cold stone wall, checks her pistol, 12 rounds remaining. She'd fired 3. Muscle memory counted even when her conscious mind was fading. Above, she hears the fighters arguing, debating. They know she's wounded, know she's trapped, but they've also watched her kill 17 of their comrades, watched her eliminate heavy weapons with surgical precision, watched her destroy an IED with a fuel-air explosion that turned physics into weapon. They're terrified of her, the ghost, the demon, the woman who kills from silence. One voice rises above the others, in order. They're coming down. They have rope. They're going to rappel into the ravine and finish this. Sarah looks around desperately. The ravine walls are sheer, vertical. No handholds. No escape route except forward or back. Both directions are kill zones. She's trapped. Her vision is graying again. Classic symptom of hypovolemic shock. She's lost too much blood. Her body is shutting down non-essential systems. Soon it will shut down essential ones too. She keys her radio, uses her teeth to press the transmit button since her hands won't cooperate. Viking, Wraith, compromised. Grid 4-3, Tango 8, 30 plus hostiles. Ammunition Winchester. She pauses, breathes, it hurts. Do not come back, get home. She releases the button, lets her hand fall. The radio crackles immediately. Negative, Wraith, Thomas Brennan's voice. Different now. Stripped of arrogance, raw, human. We are not leaving you. Then something she doesn't expect. Kandahar Actual. This is Viking. I am declaring broken arrow. I say again, broken arrow. Through the fog in her mind, Sarah understands what that means. Broken arrow, the code word, the nuclear option of close air support. It means a friendly unit is being overrun. It means every aircraft in theater will divert to her coordinates. It means danger close airstrikes that will turn the ridge into a crater. Viking, no. She tries to protest, tries to tell him not to risk the aircraft, not to risk the crews. But her voice is too weak, the transmission too broken. Thomas isn't listening anyway. Kandahar, actual Viking, I have a friendly element isolated and in danger of being overrun. Request immediate close air support. All available assets. Authorization code Brennan 7 Victor. Execute broken arrow at grid 4-3, Tango 8. Time now. A different voice responds, command authority, cold, professional. Viking, Kandahar, actual. Confirm broken arrow. That's danger close to your reported position of Wraith. Confirmed. No hesitation in Thomas's voice. One operator saved 12 of mine. I'm not leaving her in that valley. Burn that ridge. Burn it all. Copy. Fast movers inbound. ETA 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Sarah looks up at the strip of sky visible between the ravine walls. 4 minutes until F-16s arrive and turn the world into fire. 4 minutes until 500-pound JDAMs obliterate everything within 500 meters of her last known position. The Taliban fighters are rappelling into the ravine now. She can hear the scrape of rope on stone, the clatter of equipment. They'll be on her in less than 2 minutes. She has to move, has to get to the secondary extraction point, the plateau where the Blackhawks can land. It's half a kilometer away, up the ravine and across open ground. Impossible. She can't stand, can barely breathe. The plateau might as well be on the moon. But she moves anyway because that's what Mackenzies do. They move forward, always forward, even when the cost is everything. She crawls, drags herself along the sandy creek bed. Each movement is agony. Each breath is broken glass in her chest. The SIG is still in her right hand. She'll use it when they catch her, use it until it's empty. Then she'll use the knife, then her hands. She'll fight until there's nothing left. Behind her, voices. The fighters have reached the ravine floor. They're tracking her, following the blood trail that marks her passage like breadcrumbs. 50 meters to the mouth of the ravine. She can see daylight, open ground beyond. 40 meters. The voices are closer now. They found the drag marks. They're running. 30 meters. Her right leg stops working. The muscles simply give up. She pulls herself forward with her arms alone. Inch by inch, one handhold at a time. 20 meters. The first fighter rounds the bend behind her. Young, eager. He raises his AK, takes aim at her back. Sarah rolls. The movement sends her cracked ribs grinding against each other. She screams. Can't help it. But she comes up with the SIG extended. Shots 1 through 6, center mass. The fighter drops. Target number 56. She doesn't let herself think about him. There will be time later, if there is a later. More voices, more fighters rounding the bend. Sarah fires, shots 7, 8, 9. Suppression, not aiming, just putting rounds downrange, buying seconds. They go to ground, taking cover. They're not in a hurry anymore. They know she's wounded, know she can't escape. They can afford patience. Sarah uses those seconds. She pulls herself the last 15 meters to the mouth of the ravine, into the open. The plateau is visible now, 100 meters across open ground. No cover, no concealment. She'll never make it. Above her, the sound changes. A new frequency, high-pitched, growing louder. Jet engines. The F-16s are early, 3 minutes instead of 4. The Taliban fighters hear it too. Their voices rise in panic. They know what that sound means. They've heard it before in a dozen valleys across a dozen years of war. American air power. Precision-guided death falling from the sky. Sarah looks up. 2 dark shapes are visible against the blue sky, flying low and fast. Too fast. They're coming in hot. Close air support profile. Danger close. She has to mark her position. Has to show them where the friendly is so they don't drop ordnance on her head. Her IR strobe. Where is it? She fumbles at her vest, finds the device, activates it with shaking fingers. The infrared light is invisible to the naked eye, but blazing bright to the pilot's night vision systems. A beacon that says, here, friendly here, don't kill this one. The lead F-16 banks hard. She can see the weapon's payload under the wings. 2 GBU 38 JDAMs, 500 pounds of high explosive each. Precision guided, accurate to within 3 meters. The fighter pulls up, releases. 2 dark shapes detach from the wings. Fall, guided by GPS and inertial navigation, seeking the coordinates that Thomas Brennan transmitted. The coordinates where Sarah was when she made her last radio call. The ridge behind her explodes. The sound is beyond description, beyond the range of human hearing that processes information as sound. It's a physical force that compresses internal organs and stops her heart for a beat. The shock wave lifts her off the ground, throws her forward like a leaf in a hurricane. She tumbles, hits the ground, rolls. Everything is chaos and noise and fire. When she can see again, the ridgeline is gone. Just gone. Replaced by a smoking crater and a mushroom cloud of dust and debris rising thousands of feet into the air. The Taliban fighters who were in the ravine, the ones who were hunting her, they've ceased to exist, vaporized in the blast along with the 30-plus fighters who were regrouping on the ridge. Target numbers 57 through 92, approximately. She lost count. Names unknown. Family status unknown. But they're dead. All dead. Erased from the universe by American technology, guided by American satellites, funded by American tax dollars, sent by American politicians who will never see the result of their decisions. Sarah lies on her back, staring at the expanding cloud. Her ears are ringing. Blood is running from her nose. But she's alive. The radio crackles in her ear. Wraith, respond. Thomas Brennan, we saw the strike. Status. She tries to key the mic. Her hand finds the button. Alive. The word is barely a whisper. Plateau. Can't move. Copy. Dust off inbound. 30 seconds. Hang on, Wraith. Just hang on. 30 seconds. She can do 30 seconds. She's done everything else. She can do 30 more seconds. She hears the Black Hawk before she sees it. The distinctive thump of rotor blades. The bird comes in fast and low, flaring hard for an emergency landing. The wheels touch down 20 meters away. The rotor wash throws up a wall of dust and debris. The side door is already open. A figure jumps out. Not the crew chief, not a pararescue jumper. Thomas Brennan. He's running toward her, ignoring doctrine, ignoring safety protocols. Just running. His face a mask of determination and something else. Guilt, respect, recognition. He slides into the dirt beside her. His hands are already moving, checking her wounds, applying pressure to the worst bleeding. I got you. His voice is rough, choked. I got you, Sarah. Not leaving you. Never leaving you. He didn't call her chief, didn't call her Wraith. He used her name, the most basic acknowledgement of her humanity. He lifts her. She weighs nothing to him. Adrenaline strength. He carries her toward the Black Hawk at a dead sprint. The door gunners are scanning for threats. Their M240s ready, but there's nothing left to shoot at. The valley is silent. Thomas lays her on the deck of the Black Hawk. The crew chief and medic are immediately on her, cutting away her gear, exposing the wounds. Blood pressure, 70/40. She's critical. The medic's voice is clinical, but his hands are shaking. I need 2 large bore IVs. Pressure on that arm. Get a tourniquet higher. She's still bleeding out. Sarah looks to her right. The rest of SEAL Team 6 is there, pressed against the bulkhead, making room for the medic to work. All of them staring at her with expressions she's never seen before. All reverence. Something approaching worship. Senior Chief Havoc Keller's face is wet. He's crying. This massive man who mocked her in the hangar, who asked if she'd ever shot anything but paper. Tears are cutting tracks through the dust on his cheeks. Chief, his voice breaks. They showed us the drone feed, all of it. Every shot. That was you, all of it. 17 kills, the mortar team, the IED. That was your work. He can't finish, doesn't need to. The Black Hawk lifts off. The valley drops away below them. Sarah can see the smoking crater where the ridge had been, can see the destroyed IED site, can see the scattered bodies marking her 17 confirmed kills, plus the approximately 35 killed in the airstrike. 52 dead. Because of her, because of decisions she made, because she chose 12 lives over 52. The mathematics don't make sense. They never do. There's no equation that balances human lives. No calculus that makes killing right. But 12 men are alive. That has to count for something. Thomas is kneeling beside her. He's pulled out a tablet, pulling up footage, drone feed, thermal imaging. You need to see this, he says. The video plays. Thermal images showing the valley floor. Timestamps in the corner. 0638:15. A thermal bloom on the northern ridge. The first shot, the RPG gunner dropping. 0638:42. Another bloom. Commander Ahmadi eliminated. 0639:17. The PKM gunner. The DSHK gunner. Targets falling in rapid succession. 0640:33. The mortar team explosion. The sympathetic detonation of the ammunition crates. 0647:19. The IED chain detonation. The massive fireball visible even on thermal. Timestamp after timestamp. Each one showing a shot from her position. Each one showing an enemy combatant eliminated. Thomas's voice is quiet, almost reverent. We thought we were doing this. Havoc thought he got the mortar pit. I thought our suppressing fire was working. He shakes his head, but intel showed us the playback. Every kill came from your position, every heavy weapon eliminated, every threat neutralized. He pauses, his hand finds hers, squeezes gently. You stopped a battalion, Sarah. 1 woman, 17 shots, 60 fighters. His voice cracks. We smirked in the hangar. On the infill, we mocked you, and you saved our lives anyway. All 12 of us are alive because you were on that ridge. Another pause, longer. I'm sorry for not listening, for not believing. I'm sorry. Sarah wants to respond, wants to tell him it's fine, that she understands. But the words won't come. The gray is closing in again, pulling her under. The last thing she hears before the darkness takes her is Havoc's voice. Soft, broken. She's a legend, an actual goddamn legend. Then nothing. White. Sarah wakes in white. White ceiling, white walls. The antiseptic smell of a military hospital that's exactly the same in Kandahar as it is in Germany, as it is in Walter Reed. Zed is everywhere. American medicine tries to repair American bodies broken by American wars. She's in a bed, clean sheets. Her left arm is in a cast from shoulder to wrist. Her chest is wrapped tight. Breathing hurts, but it's manageable. Pain medication, good pain medication. She turns her head. Thomas Brennan is sitting in a plastic chair beside the bed. He looks like he's aged 10 years, his face drawn, dark circles under his eyes. He's wearing clean PT gear, but he clearly hasn't slept. Welcome back, Wraith. His voice is soft, almost gentle. How long? 36 hours. You've been in and out. Surgery on your arm. They had to repair the brachial artery. It was touch and go. He leans forward. You lost almost half your blood volume. The surgeon said another 10 minutes and you would have bled out completely. Sarah processes that. 10 minutes, that's how close she came. The team, all alive thanks to you. Thomas has a cracked sternum from the plate impact. Minor concussion. I'll be fine. He pauses. We extracted the HVT, by the way. Mission complete. Though honestly, after what you did, the actual objective seems almost anticlimactic. He pulls the tablet out again, sets it on the bed where she can see. There's something else you need to know about the investigation. Sarah's stomach clenches. The investigation. Right. She'd violated direct orders, fired without authorization, engaged targets before they had committed a hostile act. The court-martial was coming. She'd known that, accepted it. You fired your first shot at 0638:15, Thomas says, his voice carefully neutral. Command's official timeline shows the convoy took effective small arms fire at 0638:05, 10 seconds before your first shot. Sarah looks at him. That's not true. Thomas's expression is unreadable. I recall distinctly hearing rounds impact our vehicle at 0638:05. My driver recalls it. Havoc recalls it. In fact, every member of SEAL Team 6 is prepared to testify under oath that we were under effective fire before you engaged. He pulls out a document, an after-action report. Official, stamped, filed. The drone footage is inconclusive. Thermal bloom could be interpreted multiple ways. But the sworn testimony of a SEAL team commander and his entire platoon, he shakes his head. That carries weight. You're lying for me. I'm telling the truth about what matters. Thomas's voice is firm. You saved us. You made the right call. The fact that the bureaucracy would punish you for it is a failure of the system, not a failure of your judgment. He sets the after-action report on the bed. The investigation is closed. Ruled a righteous shoot. Defense of friendly forces. You'll receive a commendation, generic citation, nothing about the actual number of kills or the nature of the engagement. The brass doesn't want to publicize that one Army warrant officer did the work of an entire infantry platoon. Bad optics. Sarah stares at the document, at the signatures, at the official seal. Why? Her voice is raw. You didn't want me on that mission. You said I was wrong. I was wrong. The admission comes quickly, as if he'd been waiting to say it. I measured you by your gender and my own trauma instead of your capability. I let prejudice and PTSD override tactical assessment. People could have died because of my arrogance. He meets her eyes. Your father taught you something I had to relearn. Sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same. You made the hard call. Now I'm making mine. He stands, walks to the window, looks out at the airfield beyond. There's something else. Something I need to tell you about your father. Sarah's chest tightens. Thomas pulls out his phone, brings up a photo, shows it to her. It's old, faded, taken with an actual film camera. It shows a group of young soldiers in desert camouflage, Iraq, late 90s. And in the center, a man in his 40s with Colonel's eagles on his collar. Colonel William MacKenzie, Tikrit, April 1997. Thomas's voice is quiet. I was a lieutenant, fresh out of training, my first deployment, hotshot who thought I knew everything. He points to a younger version of himself in the photo. Baby-faced, cocky, that's me. 20 years old and absolutely certain I was invincible. He swipes to another photo. A building, partially collapsed. Smoke damage. Intel said this building was clear. I led my team in without proper reconnaissance. We got ambushed. 12 insurgents. They had us pinned in a kill zone. We were going to die in that building. Another swipe. A different photo. Colonel William MacKenzie. Older in this one. Harder. Standing in front of the same building. Your father heard our distress call. He was 300 meters away with a logistics patrol. No quick reaction force. No backup. Just him and 3 soldiers with rifles. Thomas's voice is thick now. Intel told him not to engage. Told him to wait for proper support. He ignored them. Went in solo. Killed 12 hostiles. Cleared the building. Saved 8 Marines. He looks at Sarah. One of those Marines was my younger brother. Corporal Ryan Brennan, 17 years old, first deployment. He pulls up another photo. Recent. A man in his early 40s with 2 young children. That's Ryan now. He's a high school teacher in San Diego. Married, 2 kids. Those kids exist because your father violated orders to save his life. Tears are running down Sarah's face. She can't stop them. Your father died in that building, Thomas says. IED. He stepped on it while clearing the last room. His voice barely a whisper now. He saved my brother. He saved 7 other Marines, and he died doing it. He sits back down, takes her hand. When I saw your name on my roster, I knew who you were. I knew the blood you came from. But I didn't trust it. I didn't trust that a woman could carry that legacy. His grip tightens. I was wrong. You're not just your father's daughter, Sarah. You're his equal, same blood, same courage, same willingness to do what's right, regardless of the cost. He squeezes her hand gently. He died because he broke orders to save lives. You almost died doing the same thing. The difference is, this time we're not letting the hero get buried by bureaucracy. You saved us. Now I'm saving you. That's the deal. Sarah can't speak. The emotions are too big, too overwhelming. She just nods. Thomas stands. Get some rest. You've earned it. When you're cleared for duty, he pauses at the door. SEAL Team 6 wants you on the roster. Top of the list, if you'll have us. Then he's gone. Sarah lies in the white room staring at the ceiling, thinking about her father, about the building in Tikrit, about the choice between orders and lives, about silence and sacrifice. Her hand moves to her vest, but she's in a hospital gown. The vest is gone. The photograph is somewhere in her personal effects. She doesn't need the photo anymore anyway. She can see him clearly in her mind. That half smile, the eyes that saw too much and carried it quietly. I understand now, she whispers to the empty room, to the ghost of a man who made the same choice she had. Why you did it. Why you always stepped forward. The silence is the only answer. But it's enough. Outside the window, an F-16 takes off. Afterburners lighting the afternoon sky. The sound rattles the windows, shakes the building. A reminder that the war continues. that somewhere right now another person is looking through a scope, making a decision, pulling a trigger, adding another face to their wall. This is what it costs. This never goes away. Sarah closes her eyes. The pain medication is pulling her under. But before sleep takes her, she makes a promise to herself. When she gets home, when she returns to that apartment in Arlington, she'll add the new faces to her wall, all 52 of them. She'll research their names, their ages, their families. She'll write it all down in her journal. Because the details matter. The details are all that remain. And someone needs to remember. Someone needs to bear witness. That's what Mackenzies do. They bear witness, even when it becomes unbearable. The dreams come in the small hours when the medication wears thin and the mind no longer has the strength to maintain its defenses. Sarah sees faces, 52 of them. Some she killed directly through the scope with 17 precise shots. Others died in the sympathetic detonation of the mortar position. Still others vaporized in the airstrike that turned a ridgeline into a smoking crater. They don't accuse her. That would be easier. Accusations she could process, could defend against, could build walls to contain. Instead, they just stand there in the gray space between sleep and waking, silent, watching. Target number 44, the RPG gunner, 22 years old, wedding ring on his finger, a wife somewhere waking up this morning not knowing she's a widow. Target number 46, Commander Rashid Ahmadi, 58, 3 daughters killed in a drone strike, fighting because American precision weapons took everyone he loved. Target number 50, the enemy sniper, former Afghan National Army, trained by Americans, turned against Americans, his brother killed by a drone, the cycle of violence spinning endlessly. Target number 55, the boy with the knife, 19, family photo in his pocket, parents and 3 younger siblings, all of them now staring at an empty chair at dinner. Sarah wakes, hospital room still dark. The clock on the wall reads 03:15. She reaches for her journal, the leather-bound book that contains the names and ages and family details of 43 kills from 4 deployments. Now it needs updating, 52 more entries, 52 more faces for the wall when she gets home. If she gets home, her hand shakes as she writes, not from pain. The medication handles that. From the simple accumulation that grows heavier with each name added to the ledger. The door opens. A nurse enters, not to check vitals or adjust IV drips, just to sit. They do this sometimes, the good ones. They understand that 3 in the morning is when soldiers fight their hardest battles. "You're writing again," the nurse says. Her name tag reads Martinez, Staff Sergeant, 20 years in the Army. She's seen this before. "Have to," Sarah says. "Have to get the names down while I remember." Martinez nods, doesn't tell her to get rest, doesn't offer empty comfort, just sits in the visitor chair and keeps watch. Professional courtesy from one soldier to another. After 10 minutes, Martinez speaks. "My son is 8. He asked me last week what I did in the war. I told him I saved lives, fixed broken soldiers, sent them back to fight." She pauses. "He asked if that made me a hero. I told him no. Heroes are the ones who don't come back, or the ones who do come back but leave pieces of themselves in the sand. You're one of those, whether you want to be or not." "I'm not a hero," Sarah says. "I know." Martinez stands. "That's why you are one." She leaves. Sarah sits alone in the darkness, writing names of the dead in careful script. This is what it costs. Morning brings Captain Frank Morrison. He enters without knocking, 62 years old and carrying 40 years of sending young soldiers to do things that will haunt them forever. He pulls a chair to her bedside, sits heavily like a man whose knees have given up pretending they don't hurt. "The investigation is closed," he says, without preamble. "Clean shoot, defense of friendly forces. You'll receive a Bronze Star with Valor device. Citation will be vague. The Pentagon doesn't want details getting out about how one warrant officer did what an entire infantry company couldn't." Sarah says nothing. Medals don't interest her. They're just medals shaped into symbols that mean different things to different people. Morrison pulls out a folder, sets it on her lap. But there's a problem. Not with the official investigation, that's handled, but with what comes after. He opens the folder. Psychiatric evaluation, mandatory after combat operations involving extreme stress. The words swim on the page. Post-traumatic stress disorder, survivor's guilt, dissociative episodes, recommendation for extended psychological treatment, possible medical discharge. "They want to put you out," Morrison says. "Medical retirement, full benefits, honorable discharge." You'll get VA care, disability rating. You'll never want for anything material. But they're done with you. The Army is done with soldiers who've seen too much, done too much. They want fresh bodies with clean slates who haven't learned yet that following orders sometimes means doing things you can't live with. What do you want me to do? Sarah asks. Morrison leans back, looks at her with eyes that have seen this play out 100 times. I want you to understand what accepting this discharge means. You walk away, you go home, you try to build a civilian life. You wake up at 3 in the morning, writing names in a journal. You avoid crowds because too many people in one place makes your heart race. You can't watch fireworks on 4th of July because the sound makes you reach for weapons you don't carry anymore. He pauses, or you fight it. You stay in. You prove you're still fit for duty. You go back to doing the thing you're better at than almost anyone alive. You train the next generation. You pass on what you've learned. She looks at the evaluation, at the clinical descriptions of her trauma rendered in medical terminology that strips away the humanity and leaves only symptoms to be categorized and treated. What would you do? She asks. Morrison's smile is sad. I'd stay in because going home doesn't make it lighter. It just means you carry it alone. At least in uniform, you're surrounded by people who understand. He stands. You have 72 hours to decide. After that, the decision gets made for you. He walks to the door. Stops. One more thing. Thomas Brennan submitted paperwork requesting you as permanent attachment to SEAL Team 6. Teaching position. Sniper instructor. Training the next generation in long-range precision fire. He says you're the best he's ever seen. Morrison looks back at her. Decision is yours, but understand what you're choosing. Stay in and you keep doing this. Keep pulling triggers. Keep adding names to that journal. Go home and you spend the rest of your life wondering if you could have saved more lives if you'd stayed. He leaves. Sarah sits in the hospital bed holding a folder that contains her future. 52 new names in her journal. A choice between walking away and stepping forward. Mackenzie's always stepped forward, even when it costs everything. The hearing room at Kandahar Airfield is not designed for comfort. Metal folding chairs arranged in rows. Fluorescent lights that hum with electrical frequency just high enough to be irritating. A long table at the front where 3 officers sit with folders and regulations and the institutional weight of a military that has been at war for 9 years. Sarah sits in the front row. Dress uniform, left arm still in a cast, ribs still tender, the physical wounds healing faster than the invisible ones. Thomas Brennan sits beside her, also in dress uniform, also carrying injuries. The cracked sternum makes breathing difficult, but he refuses pain medication. Says he needs to be clear-headed for this. The board consists of a colonel from Joint Special Operations Command, a lieutenant colonel from Army personnel, and a major who is a military psychologist. They have Sarah's file. They have the after-action reports. They have everything except understanding. The colonel speaks first. Chief Warrant Officer MacKenzie. This board has been convened to review the events of October 15, 2010, and determine your fitness for continued service. He shuffles papers. The official investigation ruled your actions a justified defensive engagement. However, separate concerns have been raised regarding your psychological state both before and after the operation. He looks at her. The psych evaluation recommends medical discharge, extended treatment, removal from combat operations. Do you have anything to say regarding this recommendation? Sarah stands. Her ribs protest, but she ignores them. Yes, sir. I'd like to remain on active duty. I'd like to continue serving. The psychologist speaks. Chief, your evaluation shows clear signs of PTSD. Survivor's guilt. You maintain a wall of photographs of individuals you've killed. You write detailed journals about their families. These are not the behaviors of someone psychologically prepared for continued combat operations. With respect, sir, Sarah says, those are the behaviors of someone who understands what we do. Someone who doesn't hide from it. Someone who bears witness because someone has to. The room is silent. The fluorescent lights hum. The Army psychologist leans forward. Chief, you killed 52 people in one engagement. That's more than most soldiers kill in an entire career. How can you possibly process that while remaining operationally effective? Sarah meets his eyes. I don't process it, sir. I carry it. There's a difference. Processing means making peace with it, finding acceptance. I'll never accept that 52 people that died because of decisions I made. but I can carry those decisions while still doing my job. The same way my father did. The same way every soldier in this room does. She pauses. The board wants to send me home because they think I'm broken. But broken implies I can be fixed. What I am is changed. Changed by 17 shots I took and 52 lives that ended and 12 lives that didn't end because I made impossible choices in an impossible situation. You can't fix that. You can only carry it. Thomas stands. Permission to speak, sirs. The colonel nods. I was the one who rejected Chief MacKenzie's warnings, Thomas says. I was the one who led 12 men into a kill zone because I was too traumatized by past losses to trust my gut. I was the one who declared Broken Arrow and called in airstrikes danger close because I couldn't live with leaving her in that valley. His voice is steady, but his hands are shaking. You want to talk about psychological fitness? I'm the one who should be evaluated. I'm the one whose PTSD almost got my team killed. Chief MacKenzie saved us despite my failures. And now you want to punish her for it by forcing her out? The personnel officer speaks. Commander Brennan, your psychological state is not what this board is evaluating. Then evaluate mine, a voice says from the back of the room. Senior Chief Havoc Keller stands. 6'3", 240 pounds, eyes red from lack of sleep. Because I'm the one who lost my brother in that valley 2 years ago. I'm the one who carries that every day. I'm the one who couldn't save him. And I'm telling you right now that Chief MacKenzie is the most psychologically sound person in this room because she's the only one honest about what this job costs. Another voice. My brother died because someone violated extraction protocols to save a local translator. The Taliban ambushed him during unauthorized movement. The system called him reckless, called him a hero, put his name on a memorial wall. Havoc's voice breaks. Chief MacKenzie violated orders to save 12 lives. If she's broken, then we're all broken. And if we're all broken, then maybe that's just what soldiers look like after doing what soldiers do. The room fills with sound, not applause, just the rustle of bodies shifting, boots on concrete, the collective understanding passing between people who have all made impossible choices. The colonel raises his hand. Silence falls. Chief MacKenzie, do you believe you're fit for continued combat operations? Yes, sir. Do you believe you can continue to function effectively while carrying what you carry? Yes, sir, because I've been doing it for 12 years. 52 more names is heavy, but it's not heavier than I can carry. The board confers. Whispered conversation that Sarah can't hear. 2 minutes that feel like hours. Finally, the colonel speaks. This board finds Chief Warrant Officer Sarah MacKenzie fit for continued active duty. However, you are restricted from direct combat operations for a minimum of 6 months. You will undergo mandatory counseling. You will serve in a training capacity. If at any point your state deteriorates, you will be immediately removed from service. Clear? Clear, sir. Dismissed. Sarah walks out of the hearing room into harsh Afghan sunlight. Thomas follows. They stand on the concrete apron, watching aircraft take off and land. The machinery of war continuing, regardless of individual trauma or triumph. Thank you, Sarah says. Thomas shakes his head. I should have listened. In the hangar, when you showed me the thermal imagery, when you told me something was wrong, I should have listened. You were protecting your team the only way you knew how, by ignoring the warning that could have saved us all. Thomas turns to face her. I've spent 22 years in uniform, lost 14 teammates. Every loss taught me to trust nothing except official channels, because gut feelings got my friends killed. He looks at his hands. But official intelligence almost got 12 more killed. You saved us because you trusted your instinct over my orders. And I'm going to have to live with that. We're all damaged, Sarah says. What matters is whether we let the damage stop us. Thomas is quiet for a long moment. Ryan wants to meet you, my brother, the one your father saved in Tikrit. He's been asking since I told him. Says he needs to thank the daughter of the man who gave him his life. Sarah thinks about her father, about the building in Tikrit, about 8 Marines saved and 1 colonel killed, and a 15-year-old daughter who spent 13 years hating him for choosing strangers over family. Tell him I'll visit when I'm stateside, she says. Tell him to bring his kids. I want to see what my father's choice looked like. Thomas nods. There's a transport leaving for Germany tomorrow. Medical evacuation flight, you're on the manifest. Final evaluations at Landstuhl, then Walter Reed for rehabilitation, 6 months minimum before you're cleared for any duty. And after that? Thomas's smile is genuine for the first time since Sarah met him. After that, you come teach my team how to shoot, how to live with it, because you're the best I've ever seen at both. He extends his hand, she takes it, the handshake of two damaged people who have learned that damage doesn't mean destruction. The transport to Germany is AK-17, configured for medical evacuation. 20 stretcher positions. Sarah doesn't need a stretcher. She sits in a jump seat along the cargo bay wall, her arms still in a cast, her ribs still taped, but ambulatory, functional. Across from her sits a young Marine, 19, maybe 20, both legs gone above the knee. IED strike 3 days ago in Helmand province. Different valley, same war. The Marine is awake, staring at the bulkhead with a 1,000-yard stare that means he's not seeing metal and rivets. He's seeing the moment. Sarah knows that stare. She's worn it. "What's your name?" she asks. The Marine's eyes focus. "Corporal Miller, ma'am." "Where are you from?" "Iowa, small town." "Family?" "Mom, 2 younger sisters. Dad died when I was 12. Farm accident." Sarah nods. "They know about your legs?" "Yeah. Mom's flying to Germany. Meet me at Landstuhl. She keeps asking if I'm okay." Miller's laugh is bitter. "How do you tell your mom you're okay when you're never going to walk again?" "You tell her the truth," Sarah says. "That you're not okay. That you won't be okay for a long time. But that okay is overrated anyway. What matters is whether you keep going." Miller looks at her, at the cast on her arm. "What happened to you?" Sarah considers lying, considers giving him the sanitized version. But this kid just lost his legs. He deserves truth. "I killed 52 people in 1 day," she says. 17 direct. 35 more in an airstrike I called in. Some of them are trying to kill Americans. Some of them were just in the wrong place. All of them are dead because I made decisions about who lives and who dies." Miller is quiet. Then, "Do you regret it?" "Every day. But regret doesn't change anything. They're still dead. I'm still alive. 12 other Americans are still alive. The math doesn't make sense. It never does." She leans forward. "You're going to spend a lot of time wondering why you lived when other Marines died. Why you get to go home when they're in flag-draped boxes. Why your mom gets to cry about your legs when other moms cry over graves." Miller nods. He understands. "The answer is there is no answer," Sarah continues. "You lived because you lived. Physics and chance and 1,000 variables nobody controls. What matters is what you do with the life you get to keep." "How do you carry it?" "Badly," Sarah says. "I write names in a journal. I keep photos on a wall. I wake up at 3 in the morning and count faces. It's not healthy, but it's honest. And honesty is the only thing that works." The C-17's engines drone. Constant white noise that makes conversation difficult but makes thinking easier. Sarah closes her eyes, not sleeping, just existing in the space between destinations. Miller speaks again, quieter. "Ma'am, do the faces ever go away?" "No," Sarah says, "but you learn to live with them. You learn that carrying the dead doesn't mean being dead yourself." She opens her eyes, looks at this kid who will spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair or on prosthetics. "Your mom is going to cry when she sees you," Sarah says. "She's going to ask if you're in pain. Tell her yes, tell her it hurts. Tell her you're scared and angry and you don't know how to be this new person you've become." Miller's eyes are wet. Why tell her that? Because lies are heavier than truth. Because pretending you're okay when you're not is how soldiers eat their guns 5 years after coming home. Because your mom can handle truth. The cargo master walks down the center aisle. 2 hours to Ramstein, he announces, then buses to Landstuhl. Nobody asks questions. They all know what comes next. Sarah pulls out her journal, opens to a blank page, begins writing. Target number 93 through 95. Unknown names, the 3 fighters I encountered on the ridge. Number 93 I killed with a knife, 19 years old approximately. Family photo showed parents and 3 siblings. Number 94 I knocked unconscious and left alive. I don't know if he survived the airstrike. Number 95 I killed climbing the ridge. She writes for an hour, adding details, trying to capture something of who these men were before they became targets. Corporal Miller watches her write, finally asks, "What is that?" "My accounting," Sarah says. "The ledger of who I've killed. Names when I can find them. Ages. Families. Everything I can learn." Why? Because someone needs to remember. Because reducing them to numbers is how we make killing easy. Writing their names is how I refuse that distance. Miller nods slowly. Can I see it? Sarah hesitates. then hands him the journal. He pages through carefully, reading entry after entry. 43 entries from 4 previous deployments. 52 new entries still being written. Jesus, Miller whispers, how do you carry all this? One name at a time, Sarah says, one day at a time. She takes the journal back, continues writing. The C-17 drones on through darkness, carrying its cargo of broken soldiers home. Landstuhl Regional Medical Center sits in Germany, but serves the entire American war machine. Every soldier too damaged for field hospitals gets funneled through here. The surgery bays run 24 hours. The rehabilitation wings are always full. Sarah spends 3 days in evaluation. CAT scans, X-rays, vascular studies, psychological interviews to determine if she's a danger to herself or others. She passes everything except the psych eval. The psychiatrist is a major who sits across from Sarah in a small office and asks questions from a checklist. Do you have difficulty sleeping? Yes. Do you experience intrusive thoughts about traumatic events? Yes. Do you avoid situations that remind you of combat? No. The psychiatrist looks up. No? No. Avoiding doesn't make it go away. It just means you carry it alone. He makes notes. Do you ever think about harming yourself? Sarah considers lying, considers giving him the answer that will get her cleared faster. But Miller's face floats in her mind. Sometimes, she says, when the medication wears off and the faces are too loud, I think about how much easier it would be to stop, to just put it down and walk away. The psychiatrist's pen stops moving. Have you made any plans? No, because thinking about it and doing it are different things. Thinking about it means it's heavy. Doing it means it won. I'm not going to let it win. Why not? Because my father carried his until it killed him, and he saved 8 lives doing it. Because Thomas Brennan carried his through 22 years and 14 dead teammates, and he still shows up. Because every soldier I know carries what would crush civilians, and they do it because someone has to. She leans forward. You want me to say I'm fine, that I've processed my trauma. But that would be a lie. What I can say is I'm functional. I can do my job. I can train others. That's the best you're going to get. The psychiatrist closes his folder. I'm recommending continued monitoring. Weekly sessions, medication for anxiety and sleep. But I'm clearing you for training duty. Not because I think you're healthy, but because I think you're honest. He stands. One more thing. The photos on your wall, the journal with names, those aren't pathological behaviors. They're memorial behaviors. You're creating a monument. That's not sickness, that's conscience. Sarah leaves feeling lighter and heavier simultaneously. Lighter because she's cleared. Heavier because being cleared means going back. The flight to Andrews Air Force Base takes 8 hours. Sarah sits in first class because the Air Force recognizes that wounded soldiers deserve better. The seat next to her is empty. The flight attendants are deferential. The passenger across the aisle is a businessman, 50s, expensive suit. He looks up, sees Sarah's uniform, smiles that patronizing smile civilians give soldiers. Thank you for your service, he says. Sarah nods, doesn't engage. Where were you deployed, he asks. Afghanistan. Dangerous place. He shakes his head. Well, I'm sure you made a difference. Made America safer. Sarah wants to tell him the truth. That 52 people died because of her, and none of them made America safer or more dangerous. That war is just bodies and choices and consequences. But he wouldn't understand. How could he? He lives in a world where war is something that happens on television. I hope so, Sarah says, then closes her eyes to end the conversation. The businessman returns to his financial reports. Sarah sits in silence, thinking about the distance between his world and hers. The plane lands. Sarah collects her bag, walks through the terminal surrounded by civilians who have no idea what the ribbons on her chest mean. Outside the terminal, evening air. Frank Morrison waits beside a government sedan. Welcome home, he says. Thank you, sir. They drive through Northern Virginia in silence, past Arlington, past the Pentagon, past all the machinery of American military power. Finally, he speaks. Your apartment is the way you left it. I've been checking on it. Your mail is on the counter. Sarah looks at him. Because you're one of mine. Because I sent you into that valley knowing what would happen. Because the least I can do is make sure you have a place to come back to. They pull up outside her building. Morrison puts the car in park. The faces are going to be loud tonight, he says. First night home is always the worst. You're going to walk in and see that wall, and you're going to have to decide whether you add the new faces now or wait. Sarah opens the door. I'll add them now. Waiting doesn't make them lighter. Morrison nods. If you need anything, anytime, you call. I will, sir. She gets out, retrieves her bag, walks toward her building without looking back. She unlocks her door, steps into her apartment. 3 months since she was last here. Everything exactly as she left it, except for the thick layer of silence. The wall waits. 43 faces arranged in precise rows, each one with a name beneath, each one with age and family details. She sets down her bag, opens her journal, begins the work of adding 52 more. Target number 44. Name research through Afghan contacts. Ahmad Fahim, age 22, married, 2 daughters ages 3 and 5, killed by precision rifle fire. His wife sent message through intermediary. She doesn't hate me. She just wants someone to acknowledge that her husband existed. Sarah prints the information, adds photograph obtained through same contacts, pins it to the wall, first of 52. She works through the night, name after name, face after face, building the monument to her choices. By dawn, the wall has 95 faces, 95 people whose lives she ended. The sun rises, light streams through her window. The faces on the wall watch her with silent understanding. Sarah's phone rings. She checks the number. Thomas Brennan. She answers. Sir. Sarah. His voice is gentle. Morrison called. Said you made it home. Said you were adding the faces tonight. Wanted to check on you. I'm okay. You're not. Neither am I. Neither is anyone who does what we do. But we keep going anyway. Yes, sir. My brother wants to meet you. Ryan, I told him about your father. He wants to say thank you. He's free this weekend if you are. Sarah looks at the wall, at 95 faces representing 95 choices. I'll be there, she says. Tell him to bring his family. I want to see what my father's choice created. Thomas is quiet for a moment. Thank you for saving us, for being willing to keep going even when stopping would be easier. That's what we do, Sarah says. We keep going. She hangs up, sits in her apartment surrounded by faces of the dead. The sun climbs higher. Outside her window, America wakes up, goes to work, lives life unaware that somewhere in Virginia, a woman sits counting the cost of keeping them safe. This is what it costs. Sarah MacKenzie will keep carrying it, because that's what Mackenzies do. The black granite cuts through the earth like a wound, 58,000 names carved in chronological order of death. Maya Lin designed it when she was 21 years old, and veterans hated it at first because it didn't glorify. It just acknowledged the dead. Sarah stands at the apex where the walls meet, the point where 1959 transitions to 1975. She's been standing here for 20 minutes, not reading names, just existing in proximity to something that feels familiar. A hand touches her shoulder. She turns. David Chen stands beside her, 52 years old, Army Ranger, retired now, teaching at Fort Benning, one of the 8 Marines her father saved in Tikrit 13 years ago. They've never met in person, only exchanged letters. But Morrison arranged this meeting. Chief Warrant Officer MacKenzie, Chen says. Sergeant First Class Chen. Sarah extends her hand. He takes it. The handshake firm, professional. Call me David. He looks at the wall. Your father's name isn't on this wall. Wrong war. But he belongs here anyway, with the people who made impossible choices. He reaches into his jacket, pulls out a bottle of whiskey, Maker's Mark. Your father's brand. I leave one at his grave every year. Figured you should have one too. Sarah takes the bottle. Thank you. They walk, away from the memorial, across the mall, past tourists and the machinery of American memory that transforms blood into marble. Chen speaks without looking at her. I was 20 in Tikrit, first deployment, thought I was invincible. Then we walked into that building and 12 insurgents opened fire, and I learned that invincibility is a lie young men tell themselves. He stops walking. Your father heard us on the radio. Intel told him to wait. He ignored them, came in alone, killed 12 men, saved 8 Marines. Sarah knows this story, but hearing it from someone who was there makes it real. I was behind a concrete pillar when your father came through the door, Chen continues, blood running down my face, rifle jammed. Then this man I'd never met just appeared and started shooting. Professional, calm. Chen's voice breaks. He saved my life. Then he stepped on an IED, clearing the last room. By the time we got to him, he was already gone. And I've spent 13 years wishing it had been me instead. Sarah feels tears on her face. I hated him for a long time, for choosing 8 strangers over me, for making the hard call that meant I grew up without him. She looks at Chen. Then I made the same choice. 17 shots, 52 dead, 12 saved. And now I understand. It's about being the kind of person who can't look away when lives are at stake. Chen nods slowly. That's why I wanted to meet you. Not to apologize for being alive when your father's dead, but to show you what his choice created. He pulls out his phone, shows her a photo, a family portrait, Chen with a woman in her late 40s, 3 children in their 20s, 2 grandchildren under 5. That's my wife, Lisa. Those are my kids. Marcus is 26, Army Ranger like me. Emma is 24, teacher. Tyler is 21, engineering student. And those 2 little ones are Marcus's kids, James and Sarah, named after your father and you. Sarah stares at the photo, at the cascade of life that her father's death created. Does it help, Chen asks, knowing what his sacrifice created? No, Sarah says, but it makes it meaningful. And meaningful is easier to carry than meaningless. They sit on a bench, watch tourists and joggers and people living ordinary lives. Thomas Brennan called me, Chen says. Told me what you did in Helmand. Told me you saved his brother. He turns to face her. I teach Rangers now at Benning. Every class I tell them about Tikrit, about the colonel who violated orders, about carrying it. He pauses. Thomas wants you to teach SEALs, but I want you to come speak to my Rangers. Tell them about Helmand, about 17 shots, about what it means to be a weapon and still be human. Why? Because the next generation needs to learn from people who've paid the price. You're one of us now. Part of the brotherhood of people who carry too much and keep going anyway. Sarah looks at the Washington Monument, at the marble obelisk that represents a man mythologized into abstraction. I'll come speak, she says, but I won't tell them it's glorious. I'll tell them the truth. That being a soldier means carrying what never gets lighter. Good, Chen says, that's exactly what they need to hear. Because the lies about glory are what get people killed. The truth about cost is what keeps them alive. Saturday morning, San Diego. The address Thomas gave her leads to a house in a suburb where children play in streets. The house is blue with white trim, toys in the yard, a minivan in the driveway. Sarah stands on the sidewalk for 5 minutes before walking to the door. She rings the doorbell. The door opens. A man in his early 40s stands there. Ryan Brennan, Thomas's younger brother. The Marine who was 17 years old in Tikrit when Sarah's father saved his life. He looks like Thomas. Same eyes, same build, but without the weight. Chief MacKenzie. Ryan's voice is warm. Please, come in. The house smells like coffee and children and normalcy. A woman appears from the kitchen. Ryan's wife, Jennifer. 2 children peek around the corner. Maya, 8. Connor, 6. Ryan leads Sarah to the living room. Photos on the walls, family vacations, school pictures. The accumulated evidence of ordinary life made possible by extraordinary sacrifice. Thomas told me what you did, Ryan says. Helmand Province, 17 shots, saved 12 men including him. He says you're the best shooter he's ever seen. He sits heavily. I was 17 years old in that building. First deployment, first combat. I thought I was going to die. Then this man I'd never met came through the door and started clearing rooms. Professional, calm. Ryan's voice breaks. He saved 8 of us, then he died. And I've spent 13 years trying to figure out how to deserve that, how to live a life worthy of his sacrifice. Sarah looks at him, at this man whose life her father chose over hers, at his wife, his children. You're a teacher? Sarah asks. High school. History. Ryan smiles, winds. I teach kids about war, about the grand narratives and the great men, all the mythology we use to make violence palatable. He pauses, but I also teach them about the soldiers who came home broken, about the families destroyed. I teach them what I learned in Tikrit. That war is individual choices made under impossible pressure. Maya and Connor appear in the doorway, shy, curious. Come here, Ryan says. The children approach. This is Chief MacKenzie. Her father saved my life before you were born. Everything we have exists because of what her father did. He looks at Sarah. I want them to understand what sacrifice means, not the abstraction. The reality that their grandfather being alive means another man's daughter grew up without a father. The children stare at Sarah with wide eyes. Your grandfather was very brave, Sarah says. She kneels down. He made a hard choice. He saved people he didn't know because that's what soldiers do. She looks at Ryan. Your dad teaches history because my father saved his life. That's meaning. That's not waste. Maya speaks. Quiet. Did your daddy die because of my daddy? Sarah's throat tightens. Yes, but that's not your daddy's fault. That's just what happened. My father chose to save 8 people, including your daddy. And that choice means you exist. Connor, the 6-year-old, processes this. Are you sad your daddy died? Every day. But I'm also grateful that his death created life, created your family. Sadness and gratitude can exist together. Jennifer brings coffee. They sit, talking. Ryan tells stories about his students. Sarah tells them about Helmand. Edited version, just the essential truth. Time passes. The children return to playing. Finally, Ryan speaks. Thomas is putting together a training program. He wants you to lead it. He leans forward. But I'm asking you to do something else too. Come speak to my history classes. Not about tactics or killing, but about cost. His voice drops. These kids are 17, 18. Recruiters tell them about honor and duty, which is true. But nobody tells them about the wall of faces you keep. I want you to tell them that. Sarah thinks about Corporal Miller, about her answer that the faces don't go away. I'll do it, she says, but they're not going to like what I tell them. Good. And says, the ones who walk away after hearing truth probably shouldn't serve anyway. And the ones who stay knowing the cost, those are the ones we need. 8 months later, Fort Benning, Georgia. The classroom holds 40 Army Rangers, ages 19 to 24. All volunteers. All think they understand what they've signed up for. They're wrong. Sarah stands at the front. Dress uniform, bronze star with V device, purple heart. David Chen introduces her. This is Chief Warrant Officer Sarah MacKenzie. She holds the record for most confirmed kills in a single engagement by any American sniper. 17 direct shots, 52 total enemy killed, 12 friendly saved. He pauses. She's here to tell you what that record cost. Sarah steps forward. You're Rangers. You've passed selection. You think you're hard. You think you understand sacrifice. Her voice is flat. You don't. You understand physical hardship, training, following orders. What you don't understand is what happens when following orders means killing people. She pulls out her journal, 95 entries, each one a person whose life I ended, each one with a name when I could find it, age, family status. She opens to a random page, reads aloud. Target number 44, Ahmad Fahim, age 22, married, 2 daughters ages 3 and 5. His wife doesn't hate me. She just wants someone to acknowledge that her husband existed. Sarah looks at the Rangers. I killed 52 people in one day. Some were trying to kill Americans. Some were just in the wrong place. All of them are dead because I made decisions about who lives and who dies. She closes the journal. I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm telling you because you need to understand what being a weapon means. A hand raises. Young Ranger, 20 years old. Ma'am, do you regret it? Every single day. But regret doesn't change anything. They're still dead. I'm still alive. 12 Americans are still alive. The math doesn't make sense. Sarah walks down the aisle, makes eye contact with each Ranger. Some of you are going to deploy. Some are going to kill people. Some are going to die. All of you are going to be changed. The question is whether you can carry that change and still be useful. She stops in the center. My father taught me that silence is a weapon. He was right. But what he couldn't tell me is that silence is also a prison. You carry what you've done alone in the quiet hours. Her voice drops. Don't do what I did. Don't carry it alone. Find people who understand. Talk about it. Write about it. Build memorials because that's how you stay human. Another hand. Ma'am, was it worth it? Sarah considers lying. Considers the answer that maintains morale. I don't know. 12 people are alive who would be dead. That includes Commander Thomas Brennan. That includes his nephew. That includes every person those 12 will save in future operations. She pauses. But 52 people are dead who might still be alive. 52 families destroyed. The Taliban fighter I killed might have eventually abandoned jihad, raised his daughters. I'll never know. And that uncertainty is part of it. The classroom is silent. So I'm asking you, Sarah continues, can you carry that uncertainty? Can you make life and death decisions knowing you'll never have perfect information? Can you add names to a journal and keep going? She looks at each face. If the answer is no, there's no shame in that. But if the answer is yes, if you can carry it and still be useful, then we need you. Not because war is right, but because war happens anyway, and the people fighting it should be the kind who understand the cost. After the class, Chen approaches. How many walked out? 12. Sarah watched them leave. Young men whose eyes said, "I didn't sign up for this." Good, Chen says. Better now than after they've killed someone. The ones who stayed are the ones who'll do it right. He hands her an envelope. From Ryan. He wants you to speak to his classes next month. Sarah takes the envelope. I'm not going to stop them from serving. You're not meant to, Chen's voice is firm. You're meant to make sure they understand what they're choosing. The ones who still choose service after hearing that, those are the ones we need. 6 months later, Virginia Beach. SEAL Team 6 training facility. Sarah stands on a range with 12 SEAL snipers, all experienced, all with confirmed kills. Thomas Brennan stands beside her. This is Chief MacKenzie. Some of you know her as the Army attachment who saved our lives. All of you should know her as the best precision shooter in the American military. Senior Chief Havoc Keller is among the 12. Sarah addresses the group. You're SEALs. You think you're the best? You probably are. But being the best at killing doesn't mean you're the best at living with what you've killed. That's what I'm here to teach. She brings out targets, not silhouettes, photographs, full color, men in traditional Afghan dress, each one a high-resolution portrait. A SEAL speaks up. Ma'am, we train on realistic targets. These are just going to make it harder. That's the point. Sarah's voice is hard. In Helmand, I killed 17 people through a scope. Each one I saw clearly. Each one had a face. And I still pulled the trigger because mission required it. She walks down the line. But pulling the trigger was easy. What's hard is living with it afterward. Looking at photos, learning names. She hands each SEAL a folder. Inside are profiles. Fictional but detailed. Name, age, family, dreams. Before you shoot each target, I want you to read this profile. I want you to know who you're killing. Then make the shot. Then write the person's name in a journal. The SEALs are uncomfortable. This isn't standard training. Thomas speaks. Do it. Because Chief MacKenzie is teaching you something no one taught us. How to be weapons and still be human. They shoot. Each SEAL reads, studies a face, makes a perfect shot, writes a name. By the end, they're exhausted, not from physical effort, but from emotional labor. Sarah gathers them. You just killed 12 fictional people. Felt heavy, didn't it? Now imagine carrying that for real. Imagine 95 names. Imagine 20 years of service and hundreds of kills. She looks at Havoc. You lost your brother. You know what carrying the dead feels like. Now imagine you're the one who created the dead. Havoc nods slowly. It's crushing. Yes, but it's also necessary. Because soldiers who don't feel it become monsters. Soldiers who feel it too much eat their guns. You have to find the balance. A young SEAL speaks. How do you find that balance? Honestly, Sarah's voice is tired. You don't. You just keep carrying it forward. Some days it's manageable. Some days it's crushing. You build rituals, write journals, talk to people who understand, and you accept that you'll never be the person you were before. She picks up her rifle. But you can still be useful, still be good at the job, still train others. Being broken doesn't mean being useless. It just means being honest about what you are. The training continues for weeks, not just marksmanship, but psychology, ethics, how to make decisions, how to carry them, how to be the kind of soldier who understands that duty comes with cost. 1 year after Helmand, Sarah's apartment. The wall now holds 95 faces, each one with a name. Each one with details. She sits in her desk writing, not adding names, just reflecting. The phone rings. Thomas Brennan. Sarah, quick question. We're putting together a new training cadre, teaching next generation of special operations snipers, cross-service. I want you to lead it. She looks at the wall, at 95 faces. That's a lot of responsibility. You're the best I've ever seen. Thomas's voice is firm, not just at shooting, at understanding what shooting costs. The next generation needs that. Sarah thinks about the Rangers she spoke to, about the SEALs she trained, about young soldiers who need to understand cost before they pay it. I'll do it, on one condition. We don't train them to be killers. We train them to be carriers. People who can make hard choices, execute them professionally, and carry the consequences without losing themselves. Deal. I'll send details. And Sarah, thank you for saving us, for teaching us, for being willing to carry what you carry so others can learn. She hangs up, looks at the wall, at 95 faces. Her father chose 8 Marines over his own daughter. She chose 12 SEALs over 52 Taliban. Ryan Brennan teaches history because William Mackenzie violated orders. Sarah trains snipers because Thomas Brennan called broken arrow. This is the legacy, each choice creating the next, each sacrifice transforming into something that continues. Sarah opens her journal to a blank page, begins writing. To the next generation, to the soldiers who will inherit this, this is what I've learned. Being a soldier means being broken in specific ways. It means carrying faces you'll never forget. It means making decisions that haunt you. It means being changed into something civilians don't understand and other soldiers recognize immediately. But being broken doesn't mean being useless. It means being honest. It means acknowledging cost. It means saying their names, writing their details, building memorials to choices you can't undo. My father taught me that silence is a weapon. He was right. But I've learned that silence is also a burden. You carry what you've done in the quiet hours. Don't carry it alone. Find people who understand, talk about it, write about it, build your own memorials. This is the price of being a weapon. This never goes away. But you can get stronger at carrying it. And that strength is the only thing that makes it bearable. Carry it forward. Carry it honestly. Carry it with people who understand. That's all any of us can do. Sarah MacKenzie, Chief Warrant Officer, United States Army, 95 confirmed kills, 12 lives saved. One father's legacy continued. She closes the journal, looks at the wall one more time. Tomorrow she'll start training the next generation, teaching them to shoot, teaching them to carry. Tonight she sits with 95 faces and makes peace with what will never leave, but has become part of who she is. Outside her window, America sleeps, unaware that scattered across the country are people like her, carrying names, writing journals, building memorials, trying to make meaning from sacrifice. The silent ones, the carriers, the ghosts who haunt their own lives, the ones who understand that duty comes with cost. That service means sacrifice. That being a soldier means carrying what can't be put down. Sarah MacKenzie is one of them, part of the brotherhood of carriers, part of the legacy that stretches from her father through her to the next generation. This is what it costs. This never goes away. But Sarah has learned to carry it. And in that carrying, in that honest reckoning with what she's done and who she's become, she's found something that resembles peace. Not the peace of forgetting, not the peace of moving on, but the peace of acknowledgement, of bearing witness, of refusing to let the dead be forgotten. The peace of carrying it forward, of transforming sacrifice into service, of teaching others to carry theirs. This is the legacy. This is what William Mackenzie's choice created. This is what Sarah MacKenzie's choice continues. Heavy but meaningful. Crushing but purposeful. The price of being the kind of person who steps forward when others step back. This is what it means to be a MacKenzie. This is what it means to serve. This is what it costs. And Sarah MacKenzie will carry it until she can't. Then she'll pass it to the next generation and hope they're strong enough to bear what she's borne. Because that's what soldiers do. They carry it. They pass it forward. They transform sacrifice into meaning. One name at a time, one choice at a time, one step forward at a time. Even when it becomes unbearable. Especially then,